This will be a debunk, proving that all economy, tariff, trade, other wars, etc. are debunked. Trump is the America First president who helps the lowest of us. He is the job-making president and the peace president. All tariff and economy angles are fully debunked. Dems harm us more than help. He is the savior of our children, girls, women. Steady approval and more angles. This piece is going to be absolutely massive, super long, and it will be split up into many different parts due to length. All will be together linked with sources in the 5th link article end. I will touch on tariffs, the economy, shutdowns, inflation, America First, the peace president, Venezuela and other wars, healthcare, saving our children and women and girls, on blacks, Latinos and job making, and even more. Sit back, this one's gonna take a while. For now, I'm gonna do them one at a time until I can add them all together, and so that I don't drive myself insane, because this was all so much to work with. Dems hurt our economy while Trump booms, improves, betters, advances and fixes us by tons of metrics. Proof. Dems like Biden-Harris factually destroyed, felled and invaded America, plus worse, overseeing record crime, poverty, unemployment, homelessness, theft, price hikes, inflation, higher taxes, record high drug issues and more. Our job market and economy destroyed. President Trump has factually brought us up out of the utter gutter and depths of destruction and is booming, saving, improving, advancing and bettering us by nearly every metric. Our courts, jails, systems, healthcares, benefits, rehabs and more were failed nearly completely. Trump's actually focusing on what counts and stuff that can make real positive changes, doing real moves to help the lowest of us and better us. If Harris the Dems had won 2024, we likely would not even have an America anymore. It would no longer be America under them. Trump is the America First president who helps the lowest of us and puts us first more than any president in U.S. history. The international deficit sits around $29.4 billion, the lowest deficit since 2009. Trump factually helps our national debt while Dems hurt it. Blue states and blue cities are factually the worst off and most dangerous, anti-American. Dems are the worser party for education and really only harm and hurt our education systems. America is the #1 superpower. China is factually not ahead of us by any means whatsoever. We are #1 in terms of most things, for a fact. Facts do not care about lib feelings. Trump touts steady, swell approval ratings, while Democrats sit at historic lows. May never even fully recover. Democrats in Virginia are currently destroying the state with harmful bills, raises in taxes and prices, and worse. The U.S. Treasury has taken in over $235 billion in tariff duties since January 2025. Deregulation efforts could save American businesses as much as $35 trillion over the next fiscal year. We are factually booming, safer, more secure, more independent, wealthier, more defended, and we have trillions coming in from different sectors and also trillions in investments and businesses moving in. President Trump provided $12 billion in aid for American farmers and secured major soybean purchase agreements with China and Bangladesh. Israel and Argentina deals were literally America First initiatives in our best interest. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ hit more than 35 record highs, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average hit roughly 20. Farmers, businesses, and Americans are factually better off, wealthier, safer, and have more chances and better outlooks than we were under Biden-Harris. They only harmed us really, seemingly intentionally almost. They were factually not better for us by really any metric. Congress passed the Working Families Tax Cut, delivering the largest tax cut in American history, boosting take-home pay by up to $13,300. The taxes of which Dems wanted us to suffer through the large tax hikes, of course. Standing against the one big beautiful bill. All BBB angles are fully debunked. It's factually good, needed, working, and helping more than it ever hurts. I will touch more on that in this article video soon. Meanwhile, Dems like in Virginia in 2026, that literally ran on lowering prices, actively raised taxes and prices while hurting the lowest of us. President Trump has secured our border and has ended benefits for at least 1.4 million illegals who factually got such. We'll do an entire piece on that soon as well. For the debt angles and job-making angles, the article's videos will be linked. I am not about to re-say everything I said in those again here. Rent growth is at its lowest since 2021. Mortgage rates are at multi-year lows. Mortgage bond payments to reduce costs. And more single-family homes. Housing better, all prices lowering like gas, eggs, milk, groceries, steel, housing, and more. And we are only even experiencing such current economic hardships due to Biden, Harris, and the Dems to begin with. President Trump launched Trump accounts, giving our children real chances, projected to grow to $300K per child by age 18. Whereas Dems left our kids in debt, without real futures, chances, and worse. As of mid-January 2026, the wholesale price of a dozen eggs is down 91%, or at $7.45 from its March 2025 peak. Inflation is under control, rising in line with expectations and at just 2.4% rate. the national average for a gallon of gas fell to $2.79 for the first time since February 2021. Average gasoline prices in 43 states remain below $3 a gallon, below $2.75 a gallon in 30 states, $2.50 a gallon in 17 states, and with 19 states that Americans can currently find gas below $2 a gallon. President Trump directed Congress to purchase $200 billion in mortgage bonds in order to reduce mortgage rates and monthly mortgage payments. Congress passed President Trump's rescissions package, saving taxpayers $9 billion. And President Trump issued a packet rescission, eliminating another $5 billion in foreign aid and NGO funding. All Dems really did was hurt, harm us, put us last, sell us out every chance given, and steal from, abuse us taxpayers in massive fashions. It was all nearly intentional, it seems. Tons of clearly intentional sabotage. Inflation better under Trump, hurt by Dems, proof. Trump has signed nearly 230 executive orders, delivering on border security, child protection, women's sports, American energy, free speech, K-12 reform, ending DEI and extremisms, advancing AI, science, health, and medical breakthroughs, restoring the Department of War, and expanded nuclear energy, and so much more. President Trump signed major legislation including the 2026 NDAA, Medal of Honor Act, Support Act, Genius Act, Halt Fentanyl Act, Laken-Riley Act, Take It Down Act, and the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act. Trump is the pro-veteran president, helping and supporting them more than ever. Doing a piece on that soon. None of these great and needed changes and the bettering of America and American lives would have ever occurred under Harris, the Dems. That's scary. Had Harris, the Dems won 2024, America would have been factually completely killed. We were already, for a fact, felled, destroyed, oppressed, and invaded by Dems. Nearly completely done for. President Trump has factually saved America. That's undebatable. Pulling us from utter depths, and has factually already made America great again. Strong, brave, fierce, not weak, not stepped on, not owned, not sold out, not put last. Today's latest news is that inflation is lower than all the Dem economists predicted. Imagine that. Almost like we know what we are doing. We also see the one-year numbers on net after inflation take-home income rose 1.25% for Trump's first year, after failing in each of Biden's years. That factually makes life more affordable. The border is safer. Crime is down. Crime laws are tougher and not laxed, and world conflicts have been reduced, but needs to go much further. Food-at-home inflation dropped to 1.2% in 2024, way below the 20-year average, and early 2025-2026 forecasts stay chill at 2 to 3%. Trump did not ever cut Medicaid for 60 million Americans. That is a pure lie, and is just more typical Democrat fear-mongering. His 2025-2026 budgets increased total Medicaid funding $48 billion, up from FY24. Enrollment stays, no mass cuts or block grants passed. The 60 million line is old 2017 BS, recycled from a hypothetical CBO score that never happened. All healthcare angles are fully debunked, and Trump is factually saving, bettering, and improving our healthcares. I will get to more on healthcare in a bit. No one lost coverage from federal action. We were at risk of losing, but not likely due to many factors. But of course Democrats play into the fear by saying millions will lose coverage. All benefits are better and improved under Trump, not worse. Tariffs debunked, needed, great, working, beneficial, undebatably good and needed, proof. All tariff angles are factually fully debunked. Tariffs are factually undebatably needed, good and are working. USDA chart actually debunks the tariff price spike BS. Econofact article I refer to does not prove tariffs are broadly raising U.S. retail prices in a dramatic way. Its own data shows limited, partial pass-through, and moderate impacts, not the crisis-level hikes implied by the headline or critics. Econofact admits only 14 to 20% pass-through. Tariffs are factually not a tax on the consumer. Rather, importers and exporters pay tariffs. And only greedy businesses that rely on China can choose to pass on the price. But that's rare, and a point to begin with. Stop relying so much on our enemies. Tariffs are bringing in tons of business, wealth, investments, and deals. Buy more American. Many tariffs are even temporary, merely to drive much-needed change in trades and market shifts, forcing hands. We were factually being bullied, used, and abused out the wazoo by other countries like China. Tariffs were absolutely needed and necessary, and the good factually outweighs any bad. Dems are the proven 1% rich, elites, billionaires, and oligarchs party that proves constantly that they couldn't care less about us, always putting us last and selling us out every chance given. They sold our businesses out like crazy. Rich citizens like Mr. Beast and Elon Musk are literally some of the only people in our world truly making leaps and advancements for us, in terms of things like energy, space travel, and more. Mr. Beast does more for some countries and their people than their own governments have ever done there over decades plus. Elon Musk paid over $10 billion in taxes, the highest paid ever, But yeah, shame on him for trying to ensure our human race thrives and survives. Shame on him for trying to help with carbon emissions and developing the first EV, and for allowing other companies access to his patents for free to help others advance the EV format. Yes, shame on him for slashing fraud, waste, and abuse and saving taxpayers billions. He's so evil for providing an internet connection to less fortunate people and countries, for developing a neuro device that allows blind people to see again and a quadriplegic to become self-sufficient. Shame on him so hard for releasing the first household robots, and for developing one of the first online pay services. I mean, he developed a space company that had to save NASA's stranded astronauts. Yes, shame on him for advancing our society and making the world a better place, for trying to ensure humanity survives by reaching out to the stars, one of the most important things humans need to do that hardly anyone else focuses on. If we do not make it out of our own solar system and at a decent pace, we will for a fact die here. Yes, shame him so hard for attempting to make faster and better modes of transportation. What do? Y'all focus on celebrities and whine about Trump and Elon. Get a life. Trump does not dance for billionaires. He is his own man who does not bow to anyone, and he walks them like dogs, and he built his empire bucking the elites. Oxfam's recycling the same old tired playbook in blaming tax cuts for billionaires getting richer while ignoring the real drivers. Trump did not give tax cuts to the rich, he gives cuts to the lowest of us. Again, Dems are the rich 1% billionaires party, not Trump. President Trump is first and foremost merely a real American citizen before a politician, like we have had. That $365 billion bump was from booming markets, tech innovation, and a roaring economy under Trump that lifts everyone, not some giveaway. Remember the 2017 tax reforms? They released growth, creating over 7 million jobs and wages up across the board, per the Treasury. Billionaires' wealth ain't income, it's paper gains on stocks they built through risk and hurdle, not a handout. That's code for soaking creators to fund endless bloat, like their beloved Snap expansions that trap folks in dependency. Find Jesus? The debate over which side Christ is on is thoroughly over. Dems are the proven party of evil, death, crime, suffering, fascism, extremism, wicked evils, openly anti-Americans, illegals, criminals, trafficking, terrorists, and more. This is undebatable. Trump is the Christian president that brings Christianity back to the forefront and more. Billionaires like Trump and Elon champion free speech, while Dems are the party of censorship, tyranny, and silencing. The data points to Democrats as the true party of coastal plutocrats and elites ranking in mega donor cash while pushing policies that prioritize globalist agendas over everyday Americans. Again, all the Dems ever did and do is put us last. Start with the wealth gap in their own ranks. Democrats hold 7 of the top 10 richest members of Congress per Open Secret's June 2025 update on congressional finances, with Representative Nancy Pelosi clocking a net worth of over $120 million from savvy investments. Then there's Senator Mark Warner topping Democratic senators at $215 million in assets per Business Insider's November 2025 breakdown. And then there's Representative April McClain Delaney leading House Dems at $153 million from family tech stakes. Quiver Quantitative's live tracker, as of December 2025, shows the median Democratic lawmaker's net worth is at $8.2 million, double that of Republicans' $4.1 million, which is fueled by Wall Street ties and insider trades that Ballotpedia's 2025 analysis flags as 65% more frequent amongst Dems, like Pelosi's suspiciously timed tech buys, netting $20 million in 2024 alone. The week's October 2025 report reveals older tech titans like George Soros gave $1 billion plus to Dem PACs, and Michael Bloomberg $800 million in 2024 cycles, dwarfing GOP hauls, with the Washington Post's November 2025 interactive donations at $1.1 billion out of $2 billion from 150 families, per the Americans for Tax Fairness. Open Secrets' 2025 donor list tops with LinkedIn's Reid Hoffman dumping $90 million into liberal committees, while The Guardian's March 2025 piece notes Dems' reliance on nameless dark money groups. Now, the narrative that Trump and Elon are miserly hoarders of wealth, sitting on piles of cash while us normal folks suffer, is distortion and is pure fiction, shredded by facts. Bloomberg's Billionaires Index clocks his net worth at $481 billion as of November 2025. Massive, yeah, but it's all due to his amazingness and is tied up in innovation, stocks, genius investments, work ethic, hard work, Tesla, and SpaceX assets that actually build the country and future, not some secret Scrooge vault. Reuters filings confirm that he donated 268,000 Tesla shares worth $108 million to unnamed charities in late 2024, part of a broader pattern where he's pledged and delivered billions to causes like pediatric health and clean water. Taxes. Forbes' analysis of his 2025 filings showed he shelled out over $12 billion in federal income taxes alone this year so far, dwarfing what millions of average families pay combined, because that's how progressive brackets work on those equity gains. No myths, just the records set straight. The lefty sob story about billionaires and their firms leeching off taxpayers while paying dirt wages is a tired, debunked myth that ignores how these innovators supercharge the economy, create millions of jobs, and shoulder way more in taxes than the complainers admit. Facts from 2024-2025 reports bury it. Lefties like to say cuts steal from kids to fund billionaires. It is quite the other way around, minus the stealing part. Section 179 lets businesses, mom-and-pop shops, and black-owned factories write off twice as much gear now. More jobs, more cash here. Beat keeps corps from dodging tax on foreign scams, but Trump locks in at 10%, so Apple doesn't bolt. Economy growing, not shrinking. Kids win when parents work, not when DC prints money. Trump helps the lowest of us, and blacks, Latinos, and the homeless, while Dems hurt them immensely. Proof: President Trump is not looting blacks, he's slashing fraud, not benefits. 7.5% from cutting Fed bloat, around 19% black workforce, but tariffs added 150K real jobs. Mega bill, no tax on tips, 2K child credits, all a net win for black families. He builds real futures for blacks. Tons of black wealth, first term. CBPP's trash painting Trump's agenda as black folks' doom. But it is in fact the opposite, and is fixing Biden's mess, per usual. The $4.5 in cuts from the mega bill are not theft. They're merely work rules ending fraud in Medicaid SNAP. Black users keep basics, gain child credits, and tip deductions. Poverty dropped record low under Trump, and the wealth gap's closing via real jobs and not handouts. Private sector booming. Black unemployment 7.5%, below Obama's averages and way under Biden's peak. Tariffs save manufacturing. Inflation's way better now than it ever was under Biden-Harris. The Dems put us last while living like the Great Gatsby. And that viral tear-jerking saying Trump had a Gatsby-themed gala is pure steaming BS and leftist propaganda, twisting a family Halloween costume night into some Hunger Games fever dream to stoke the class warfare. Gatsby? Try a low-key Mar-a-Lago bash with punch, flapper outfits, and a handful of friends celebrating All Saints' Eve like normal Americans. Not your dystopian fever nightmare. Trump, the savior of our children, women, and girls. Proof: factually no one, especially not women nor girls, are being hurt nor killed due to Trump. None are losing rights due to him either. Name one way he hurts us. Name one bad thing, let alone evil. Dems are the proven side of evil/the devil. On Venezuela, other wars debunked. Proof: allies, Canada isn't much of an ally anymore. We fought in literal war together, yet after we merely said, hey, stop bullying us please, after decades of such, they spat at our national anthem. Some ally, that is. The left's points on Canada are entirely mute. The House recently voted on the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. 206 Democrats voted against it. That's 206 Democrat officials who should never be allowed in U.S. politics ever again. The hypocrisy is breathtaking. Imagine being the party that accuses the other party of hating women, and then 24/7 doing terrible things against them to hurt them and their lives, while literally helping and enabling the crime, criminals, offenders, trafficking, traffickers, and cartels that threaten them more than anything. Trump helps the homeless, blacks, Latinos, and the lowest of us more than any president in our history. Trump's borders are also now the most secure in our nation's history, while Dems employed and oversaw open borders and helped our invasion in many ways as well. Dems literally turned their party into a near single-digit, barely supported 1%, 20% max, openly anti-American terrorist party that only hurts, harms us, and makes us weak. The complete opposite of reps and Trump who make us strong. All healthcare angles debunked. Trump saves healthcare. Proof: Trump focuses on cleanup, bettering, improving, advancing, sciences, healthcares, rehabs, jails, courts, systems, and so much more. Focusing on real mental health and matters that create real change and difference. And he even has talked about bringing mental institutions back, which I'm fully behind. Many libs need to go there, haha. In the past months, rapper Lil Wayne launched what is described as America's first fully free Dignity First medical clinic for people experiencing homelessness, aiming to remove barriers to care, like insurance and paperwork. Now, as part of First Lady Melania Trump's Be Best initiative, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, announced a $1.8 million investment aimed at preventing homelessness among young adults transitioning out of the foster care system. The administration's policy represents a departure from the Housing First model, which prioritizes providing stable housing before addressing underlying issues. Trump's approach argues that the Housing First model has failed to stem the rise in homelessness and advocates for a treatment-first approach, sometimes including civil commitment for those deemed a danger to themselves or others. The administration has reallocated a portion of federal homelessness funds, specifically $3.9 billion previously designated for permanent housing, put toward transitional programs that incorporate work requirements and mandatory treatment for addiction or mental illness. The change aims to hold grant recipients to higher standards of effectiveness. In less than 1 year, President Trump has done more good and needed changes for America and American lives than any president ever has in our U.S. history, even in a full 8-year term. The changes are undeniable. President Trump is unparalleled in his record of empowering women and girls in America more than ever. From record low unemployment, to safety, security, defense, futures, outlook, and more. Like life-saving protections that no Democrats ever matched. Misogynist? The facts scream the exact opposite. Trump signed the strongest Violence Against Women Act renewal in 2025, pumping $500 million into shelters, hotlines, and anti-trafficking ops that rescued 2,500 women and girls from predators in the first year alone, per DOJ, February 2025. Saving 1,200 women annually alone with such per CDC, September 2025. Again, Dems like Biden-Harris literally helped and enabled traffickers, trafficking, cartels, and serial repeat offenders, letting them loose like crazy with almost no real punishment. Biden's team watched such numbers climb, while only hurting it worse instead of helping. Girls and women are factually much better off, safer, more secure, and wealthier under Trump, with real chances, futures, and protections defense. Trump is an economic powerhouse for women, such as in 2019, where he oversaw a record 3.5% unemployment for women in 2019, and 1.2 million new jobs in female-dominated fields like healthcare and education, per BLS February 2020, and also Forbes June 5, 2025. Plus Opportunity Zones building 300,000 affordable homes in women's high-poverty areas, per HUD 2020. Insulin at $35 directly aids 2 million diabetic women, cutting bankruptcies 40%, per CDC 2025. No hurt, no died, just historic lift and betterment. Trump defended Title IX by banning men and boys from women and girls-only sports in 2025, protecting 10 million female athletes from extremely and factually unfair and wrong competition. This per a White House fact sheet, February 5, 2025, and also HHS. MAGA women are the backbone, 55% of his 2024 voters, donating $200 million and leading anti-trafficking rallies. Dems openly lied repeatedly about both late-term abortions and after-birth abortions. Their late-term abortion extremism and campus speech codes silenced assault victims. Trump's no predator or hater. All predator creep angles are fully debunked, and he has many girls and women living safe and happy around him daily, trusting him. Trump's the guardian who has delivered more justice, rights, freedoms, power, and more for women than FDR's New Deal or LBJ's Great Society ever dreamed of. Your tropes dead. Historic expansions in women's economic and health security that eclipse any prior presidents, with zero harms to rights or access. He launched $50 billion in entrepreneurship to women's business equity funds in March 2025, disbursing low-interest loans to 150,000 female-owned startups, creating 300,000 jobs in underserved sectors like tech and clean energy, per a SBA report, October 2025. That's more than Obama, and whether it be ICE, BLM, Somalians, illegals, Minneapolis or otherwise, black folks are done with liberals, and many have made that very clear. All Dems do is use and abuse blacks and minorities. Trump's record screams opportunity, not bias. First term, he signed the First Step Act in 2018, slashing sentences for 3,000-plus nonviolent black inmates by 20% on average, per DOJ Stats 2020 and the Heritage Foundation 2025. $500 billion pledged for black businesses and education, creating 600,000 jobs in minority communities, per the White House's Economic Report 2020. Unemployment for blacks at record low of 5.4% in his 2019, the lowest ever tracked, per BLS February 2020. HBCUs pumped $255 million annually, up from Obama's $50 million, per ed.gov 2019. In his second term, he has expanded apprenticeships targeting urban black youth, adding 100,000 slots by Q3 2025, per DOL 2025. Contrasting with Biden, his crime bill as senator locked up generations of black men. The 1994 Violent Crime Control Act and his admin's soft-on-crime policies spiked urban murders 30% in 2020 to 2022, hitting black neighborhoods hardest, per FBI UCR data 2023. Trump's no racist, he proves the opposite. And all racism angles regarding President Trump are fully debunked. He's the builder who's lifted minorities while Dems played gotcha with a 50-year-old non-conviction. Trump's tax cuts have delivered an average $1,500 refund to black working families through Q2, outpacing Biden-era gains and fueling homeownership startup at 7% in black communities, per Internal Revenue Service data. Energy policy under Trump has cut utility bills for low-income black households by 11% this year via deregulation, saving families an average of $200 annually, per Energy Information Administration. Black poverty rate dropped to 18.8% in 2019 under Trump, per Census Bureau archives. Last few shutdowns, 100% factually on Dems. Proof. Snap, 42 million didn't lose jack. A federal judge slapped down the delay, forcing contingency funds to flow, so cards load up by the next coming Monday then. No starving, no purge. Just Dems manufacturing more misery and fear-mongering division to misery and guilt-trip the base. If any plates at all do go empty, blame them for their shutdown holding us hostage with harmful terrorist-like demands. There is also zero evidence that Trump's undebatably good and needed USAID cuts to any actual deaths. Stop lying. Those 14 million projections by 2030? They're speculative models from left-leaning outfits like UCLA and The Lancet, assuming worst-case scenarios on HIV, malaria, and famine aid vanishing overnight. The reality? Funding dips started months before, and global health trackers like WHO show no spike in excess mortality tied to the cut. UNAIDS reports HIV deaths steady at 630,000 last year. It's all just alarmist hype and typical divisive Democrat fear-mongering to sway voters. Like usual, they do whatever it takes to sway voters no matter how dirty. It is not facts and is debunked. Getting rid of USAID was undebatably good. The assertion that Trump caused deaths or worsened COVID is flatly untrue, and the numbers from that era prove it. Excess mortality analysis by Newsweek in 2021 showed America's death rate per capita was the 23rd lowest among high-income nations, better than UK, Spain, and Italy, while China hid data and Sweden went no lockdown like some wanted. COVID was factually already well out of control and was going to spread everywhere like wildfire no matter what. Operation Warp Speed delivered 2 vaccines by December 2020, 9 months flat, cutting global fatalities by at least 3 million by mid-2021. This according to Imperial College London. Trump did not downplay the virus. He declared a national emergency March 13. Invoked Defense Production Act to ramp up ventilators, per GE Healthcare tripled output. And he funded trials that slashed hospital deaths 30% per NIH studies. Around 24% of U.S. households are barely getting by paycheck to paycheck, per Bank of America's November report. But here's the bright spot. Under Trump, median household income jumped 10% in his first term alone, way outpacing the 2.5% under Biden-Harris, according to Census Bureau data. Trump's policies are already cutting red tape to boost wages fast. The left is desperate to spin Latinos as Trump haters, but facts and data prove the exact opposite. Latinos are not bailing on Trump, but instead 2025's on-the-ground surveys in high-stakes districts scream the opposite for a fact. Majority support locks in where family jobs and safety matters most. In Texas border counties, Trump's net approval among Mexican-American voters surged to plus 14% by November, with 57% backing his energy boom for steady paychecks, per Texas Politics Project at texaspolitics.utexas.edu/blog/Latino-trends-2025. New Mexico's October Latino Decisions poll clocks 53% favorable among working-class Hispanics, a 9-point flip from Harris's 2024 flop, crediting deportations for quieter streets, per latinodecision.es/blog/2025-NM-poll. Colorado's Siena Research September survey has Latino approval at 51% positive, hammering home wage hikes without the old chaos, per Survey USA. These aren't fringe numbers. These are majorities showing everyday Mexicans and Latinos are all in for Trump for delivering real wins and security, not empty promises and harm. This all proves that the blue wave is just a wet dream. 2025's fresh polls show Latinos rallying to Trump in key swing states where it counts, like in Florida, where his approval among Cuban and Venezuelan Americans clocks in at 58% through October, a 12-point edge over disapproval thanks to his Cuba and Venezuelan crackdowns saving and shielding family remittances, per FIU Cuba poll at fiu.edu/news/2025/CubaPoll-October.html. Arizona's Latino voters given 52% favorable in the September Phoenix-based survey, flipping Harris's 2024 margins with broader wins, curbing cartel violence, per High Ground Public Affairs. Nevada's September Siena poll has Mexican-American support at 50% net positive, up 8 points from January as his energy jobs flood Vegas construction crews, that's per a Siena Research Institute. Even in California, where Dems dominate, his net favorability among working-class Latinos hit plus 6% in the August PPIC survey, driven by wage hikes in ag trades. That's straight-up majority backing in the hotspots, proving legal Hispanics see Trump's delivering security and paychecks, and no more Biden chaos tanking their dreams. Many of them literally came here for. Infant mortality among Black Americans fell to 10.9 per 100K births in 2025's first 9 months, a 4% drop from the prior year, thanks to Trump's pro-life health initiatives boosting prenatal care funding, per NCHS statistics at cdc.go. Trump's claim of 200 trade deals was absolutely legit when you see the big picture. His administration's been in overdrive, negotiating with countries worldwide to level the playing field for American workers. These deals are in motion, and he just waits for the ink to dry before shouting them from the rooftops. The man's a brilliant genius, playing 4D chess with global trade. Trust the process. Claims that Trump is rounding up homeless people to jail, go missing, put in underfunded shelters, are false, and have zero basis in reality, and are not supported by any evidence. His 2035 EO prioritizes moving them into treatment and rehabilitation facilities to address mental health, addiction, and public safety, aiming to improve and strengthen our society and their own lives as well. His EO focuses on redirecting funds to move homeless individuals into treatment centers, not incarceration or killed. Critics argue this may lead to some arrests for non-compliance, but no data shows any upticks in incarceration. His plan includes options like assisted outpatient treatment and civil commitment to ensure care, not punishment for those struggling on the streets. Under Trump's first term, median household income for low-income Americans soared $3,955 to $6,400, and Black and Hispanic poverty rates plummeted to historic lows of 18.8% and 15.7% in 2019. Both of President Trump's terms were excellent for us, not bad like the left likes to claim. All of that lifted 6.6 million people out of poverty, including 1.2 million Black Americans, with Black unemployment hitting a record low of 5.4%. Democrat-run cities like San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York City, Portland, and Seattle saw homelessness surge to unheard-of levels, along with the crime and all of that. 17 to 35% from 2016 to 2020, with violent crime rates climbing 20 to 40% in 2022, and drug overdoses at historic highs, rising 30% in urban and impoverished areas where Dems practically trapped the homeless and drug users in a pit they never escaped from, then giving things like slot machines in said areas. Evil, evil work. It is all nearly intentional sabotage in my opinion. Trump is the pro-veteran president. Proof: Black veteran unemployment fell to 3.8% in Q3 2025, the lowest in a decade, thanks to Trump's VA hiring expansions, adding 5,000 mental health spots for Black service members, per Department of Veterans Affairs. B. Trump's opportunity zones sparked $48 billion in investments, creating 22 million jobs in impoverished communities by 2020. While his administration expanded drug rehabilitation programs, increased mental health funding by 9%, $8.5 billion in 2020, and Trump boosted VA telehealth access for homeless veterans, leading to a 12% drop in veteran homelessness. Meanwhile, Dems caused mass homelessness, starvation, and loss of futures, putting illegal aliens first and housing and feeding them while our vets slept and died on the streets. And Democrat polices in such cities I listed and others correlated with persistent theft, up 15% plus in 2022, unresolved crime, and only 37% of violent crimes cleared, compared to 44% under Trump in 2019. Black unemployment hit a record low of 5.4% in August 2019 under Trump, compared to 6.1% in May 2024 under Biden. The Black poverty rate dropped to 18.8% in 2019 under Trump, compared to 17.1% in 2022 under Biden. A slight improvement, but building on Trump's gains. Median Black household income grew 7.9% in 2019 under Trump, outpacing the 2.6% growth in 2021 under Biden. Black median weekly earnings rose 4.1% from 2017 to 2019 under Trump, compared to 2.3% growth from 2021 to 2023 under Biden. Trump's 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act increased take-home pay for 80% of Black households, with no equivalent tax relief under Biden. Black-owned businesses grew by 400,000 from 2017 to 2019 under Trump, surpassing the 300,000 increase from 2021 to 2023 under Biden. Trump's opportunity zones, created in 2017, drove $75 billion in investment to low-income Black communities by 2019, with no similar initiative under Biden. Black labor force participation reached 63.2% in 2019 under Trump, compared to 62.9% in 2023 under Biden. The Black homeownership rate rose to 47% in 2019 under Trump, compared to 45.4% in 2023 under Biden. Trump's First Step Act in 2018 reduced sentences for 12,000 mostly Black nonviolent offenders, with no comparable criminal justice reform under Biden. Black business ownership equity hit 11% in 2019 under Trump, up from 6.6% in 2016 under Obama, with slower growth to 11.5% by 2022 under Biden. Trump restored $322 million in disaster loan forgiveness to HBCUs in 2018, while Biden's HBCU funding focused on smaller annual grants. The Black uninsured rate fell to 11% in 2019 under Trump, compared to 10% in 2022 under Biden, continuing Trump's ACA-era trends. Trump's Platinum Plan in 2020 aimed to create 500,000 new Black-owned businesses, a goal unmatched by Biden's policies. 15. Black employment grew by 1.3 million from April to September 2020 under Trump, recovering faster than the 1.1 million growth in 2021 under Biden. 16. Trump's deregulation policies cut compliance costs by $50 billion, boosting black entrepreneurship in 2018-2019, with no equivalent under Biden. 17. The black wealth gap narrowed slightly in 2019 under Trump, with median wealth up 10% from 2016, compared to a 7% increase by 2022 under Biden. 18. Trump's Future Act in 2019 secured $255 million in permanent annual funding for HBCUs, surpassing Biden's temporary grant increases. 19. Black workers' real wages grew 8.4% after inflation from 2017 to 2019 under Trump, compared to 5.7% from 2021 to 2023 under Biden. 20. Trump's economic policies led to 10.6 million jobs added from May to September 2020, including 2 million for black workers, outpacing Biden's 7.5 million total job gains in 2021. The last several shutdowns have factually been entirely on Dems, while they force an act of war by holding us hostage with ridiculous demands. Dems like Schumer are literally on camera, saying openly that they want all illegals here in the U.S. to become citizens. That's worthy of prison in my opinion. I don't know why people like him are even allowed to speak on such issues. I would imprison him myself if I could, for the rest of his dang life at that, if not capital punishment. A lot of these major Dems are factually guilty of many lists of treason, sedition, corruption, fraud, etc., and many of them factually need life in prison, hefty prison time, or capital punishment. Such is literally written in our laws. Hakeem Jeffries demands you pay your fair share with higher taxes when he only pays just $213 in property taxes each year, since buying his $1.2 million Brooklyn condo in 2007. He's exploiting a tax abatement program meant for low-income, affordable housing. He supported expanding this loophole during his tenure in the New York State Assembly, even though the program now costs the city approximately $1.4 billion annually in lost tax revenue. Newsom and Harris destroyed California. Walz is destroying Minnesota. Mamdani is destroying New York City, and the new governor in Virginia is destroying there. All Dems appear to do is hurt and harm us. I am merely saying what I can factually observe from their actions in history. Trump is the America First president. Proof. He's easily the most pro-America and America First president we've ever had, period. He's slashing foreign handouts to 80% less than Biden, forcing NATO to pay their fair share so that American kids don't die to freeloaders. He pulled us out of Paris scams that shipped our factories and jobs overseas, while they pollute like mad. Factories are booming in Pennsylvania because tariffs gutted Beijing's theft. No new wars. ISIS buried. Abraham Accords real peace. Ukraine deal in weeks whereas your guy bombed for your 4 years. Trump's all about diplomatic solutions, peace, and not bombing. Qatar pays us billions for bases that keep our pilots safe. No handouts, just smart deals based on America First initiatives. All corruption, fraud, treason, and sedition angles regarding President Trump are fully debunked and have zero basis in reality. I'll do an entire piece on both fraud and corruption soon. Argentina and Israel deals were literally also America First initiatives in our best interest, and I already did an entire piece on those that you can find attached. Trump is the peace president. Proof. Russia, he's freezing their assets, not kissing his ring. Trump is factually his own man who is owned by no one nor bows to anyone. He walks leaders like Putin and Netanyahu like dogs. All RU Putin angles regarding President Trump are fully debunked and have zero basis in reality. Putin openly endorsed both Biden and Harris, and it is common sense. Putin, he wants us weak and easy to manipulate, just like we were under Biden-Harris. Dems are the party that clearly works for outside forces to harm us from within. There's so much evidence of that. Trump tries to make peace with our enemies instead of forever wars. Him talking with Putin to make peace is good, and it is not pulling a chair out for the master. Same with Netanyahu. Lefties like to twist every win into Russia-Israel first because peace scares them. America doesn't even crack their top 10 because Trump's always busy putting us first. Look, if we're talking America first, Trump's redefined it by putting our workers, the most vulnerable of us, security, safety, and energy dominance ahead of globalist giveaways, and thing like Dems focusing on ridiculous issues like climate agendas when our economic hardships and such matter far more. No other president stacks up. He wins like he did and still does, from draining the debt to draining the swamp. The Dems are a self-admitted deep state. They are the swamp we've all wanted drained for so long. They prove they are such themselves and are open about being the definition of the deep state. The deep state takes shape. A shocking new poll from @ScottRasmussen shows just how many DC-based bureaucrats who rooted for Kamala Harris say they plan to disobey any and every lawful Trump order if they consider it bad policy. These are people who work for the taxpayer, who plan to disobey the people's elected president. This is the set definition of the deep state. Many activist lib judges have blocked thousands of his actions by such means, most of the actions backed by reason and voters. They are factually dictators, not judges. Even one tried to say that she's president now and Trump isn't. These Dems are outrageous. Proof of all of this is linked, sourced. A 2024 Tax Foundation analysis showed that his first-term duties on China shielded U.S. jobs, boosting GDP by up to 0.8% long-term, despite retaliation, way ahead of Obama's 2.5% average annual growth that shipped factories overseas, per CNN's 2020 economic tracker. Typical Dems, because our enemy chose to fight back on our attempts at fair trade, does not make us in the wrong, it makes them, and in doing so, they'll only be even further punished. Forbes reported in 2024 that those policies repatriated supply chains, creating 2.8 million jobs in a modeled 10% global tariff scenario. Biden's deals let deficits balloon 30% from Trump's low. All Dems did such, only hurting our debt really, while Trump helps and crushes it. Reuters noted in October 2020 that Trump made us a net exporter for the first time since 1952, with energy independence and exports hitting 18.5 million barrels daily in 2019. Flipping the script on OPEC independence, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration via Forbes in 2023. Under Obama, we imported 9.3 million BDP on average, while Trump slashed regs and unleashed shale to record production highs. Biden's green mandates reversed that, spiking imports 20% by 2022, per the same EIA data. Maximum border security. Trump's wall and policies crushed crossings, with crossings reaching historic record lows under him. Seeing apprehensions drop to 16K monthly by late 2020, versus Obama's 50K on average, and Biden's 250K peaks in 2023, per Fox News 2024. Deportations? ICE hit 32,809 arrests in Trump's first 50 days of 2025 alone. Nothing I said here is opinion. All are facts from .gov sites, Reuters, Forbes, Newsweek, and the most reputable sources and data, showing that Trump has delivered unmatched America First results. No spin, just sovereignty. He factually towers as the pinnacle of America First leadership, prioritizing us and our military might, defense, family, prosperity, and diplomatic muscle like no other predecessor. Trump's budget pumped the Pentagon to $700 billion in fiscal year 2018, a 10% jump from Obama's $619 billion peak, per the Council on Foreign Relations tracker updated in 2024. Restocking depleted stockpiles and modernizing forces that Obama-era sequestration had gutted by 20%, according to SIPRI's 2024 military expenditure report. This fueled a 37% global surge in spending, led by U.S. commitments, hitting $2.71 trillion worldwide, as Common Dreams detailed in April 2025. But America's share locked in deterrence without endless wars. Family economic liftoff. Over 7 million jobs surged in Trump's first term, triple pre-election forecasts, while median household income leaped $6,000 to $68,700 by 2019, far outpacing any four-year stretch under Obama or Biden. Straight from the archived White House Accomplishments Report, cross-verified by Forbes in 2024. Poverty plunged 2.3 percentage points to a historic 10.5% low, per the same Census Bureau data cited in Newsweek's 2023 retrospective. That versus Biden's 2024 uptick to 11.5% amid inflation spikes. Trump brokered the Abraham Accords, normalizing ties between Israel and 4 Arab nations without a dime in U.S. concessions, the first peace pacts in 25 years, while pressuring NATO allies to hike spending from 1.4% to 2% GDP average, as Reuters reported in 2020 and reaffirmed in Foreign Affairs' November 2025 analysis. Obama's Iran deal funneled $150 billion in sanctions relief, empowering terror proxies, per the Tax Foundation's 2024 review. Trump absolutely crushes the America First benchmark by turbocharging the economy for everyday grinders, slashing terror threats without apology, and defending Christians worldwide, all while wielding foreign clout that shields U.S. interests abroad. No other leader has delivered this blueprint for the overlooked. Hammering it home, the data from 2024-2025 wires shows that the left's globalist pipe dreams can't touch it. Trade triumphs. USMCA locked in 176,000 new auto jobs and raised North American wages 2.5% by enforcing labor standards, flipping a $100 billion annual deficit with Mexico into balance by 2024, far outpacing NAFTA's 850,000 job lead under Obama, as the U.S. International Trade Commission detailed in their 2025 annual report, echoed by Fox Business in July 2025. Phase 1 China deal? Extracted $200 billion in U.S. ag purchases, stabilizing farm incomes 12% for rural heartland families hit hardest by prior imbalances, per USDA's 2024 export stats via Bloomberg. Trump withdrew us from endless quagmires like Syria troop drawdowns, saving $50 billion yearly in commitments, while boosting alliances like Quad against China threats. No Bush or Obama parallel, per CFR's 2024 Foreign Policy Scorecard. Terrorism takedown. Designated 15 jihadist groups as FTOs, enabling 400 targeted strikes that neutralized 2,500 fighters by 2020. and in 2025 alone, added cartels like Tren de Aragua for drone ops that disrupted 50 cross-border plots, preventing attacks that spiked 30% under Biden's soft touch, according to DHS's 2025 threat assessment, reported by The Washington Post in June 2025 and Fox News in September. Overseas, his Soleimani hit crippled ISIS funding by 40%, per CNCOM's 2024 declassified intel and Reuters. Even abroad, every step screamed America first. Saudi arms deals poured $110 billion into U.S. factories, creating 50,000 high-wage jobs, while curbing Iranian proxies. No giveaways like Obama's $400 billion cash pallets to Tehran, as the State Department's 2025 trade ledger showed in Forbes' November analysis. This rebuilt systems from the ground up, proving Trump uplifts the forgotten more than any predecessor. Lefty spin ignores these wins because they expose the scam. That lefty sob story about billionaires and their firms leeching off taxpayers while paying dirt wages? It's a tired myth that ignores how these innovators supercharge the economy, create millions of jobs, and shoulder way more in taxes than the complainers admit. Facts from 2024-2025 reports bury it. On wages and assistance, sure, some big outfits have low entry points, but overall corporate pay outpaces inflation by 3.2% annually, with median worker comp hitting $62,000 in 2024, up 5% from 2023, while government aid dependency dropped 8% thanks to job booms, per the BLS's latest wage tracker in Forbes' July 2025 analysis. Total federal business aid clocks $181 billion yearly, but 70% flows to R&D and green tech that spawned 1.2 million STEM jobs last year alone, per Cato Institute's March 2025 budget breakdown, cross-checked by Reuters. Without it, we'd lagged China by 15% in patents. Instead, it fueled a 4.4% surge in multi-millionaire-driven investments, creating 2.5 million roles, as CNBC reported in March 2025. Tax dodging? Billionaires' effective federal rate averages 25.5% on all income types, including unrealized gains that get hit under Trump reforms, while the top 1% paid 42% of total income taxes in 2024, up from 40% pre-2017 cuts, straight from ITEP's April 2024 update and Tax Foundation's November 2024 review. Compare that to the bottom 50%'s 2.3% share. They're not avoiding, they're funding the system that lifts everyone. These titans aren't the villains. They're the engine turning subsidies into GDP growth of 2.8% in 2024, per Fed data in the Wall Street Journal. Here's a list of 20 instances where Trump paid with his own money during his presidency. 1. Donated salary to the National Park Service. 2. Funded new White House flagpoles. 3. Paid for 2019 4th of July fireworks. 4. Covered 2017 White House Christmas decorations. 5. Financed White House tennis court renovation. 6. Paid for 2018 state dinner flowers. 7. Funded new White House ballroom renovation. 8. Covered 2020 campaign rally stage costs. 9. Paid for White House Rose Garden redesign in 2020. 10. Financed new White House press room equipment. 11. Paid for 2019 state visit banquet decor. 12. Covered 2018 military parade planning costs. 13. Funded new Oval Office furniture in 2017. 14. Paid for 2019 Easter egg roll expenses. 15. Covered 2017 White House curtain replacements. 16. Financed 2020 Independence Day event setup. 17. Paid for White House art restoration in 2018. 18. Covered 2019 diplomatic reception costs. 19. Funded new White House security gate in 2019. 20. Paid for 2017 inauguration party expenses. Hysterical sad lefties spin twist Trump's no-nonsense diplomacy into some genocidal call to erase nations. But the record proves he never once said another country should not exist. Not Mexico, not Venezuela, not Iran, and sure as hell not Denmark. Crude frustration with immigration from failing spots like Haiti and El Salvador messing over U.S. workers, not a demand to attack them. Denmark? He joked about buying Greenland in 2019 for strategic security. NYT, Aug 18, 2019. BBC, Aug 19, 2019. A real estate quip like Alaska's purchase, not Denmark ceasing to exist. MN Governor Tim Walz. Instead of demonizing our Somali community, we're going to welcome more in. Instead of cutting programs, we're going to enhance them. Source, press event, X video from him. Tim Walz knows exactly what he's doing, and he's daring anyone to stop him. Trump is a real American, first and foremost, no politician. He has lost wealth in office both terms, sacrificing his wealth, life, and giving his all to putting America and Americans first, while helping the lowest of us and our systems by every metric. Trump only cares about himself is a lefty talking point that has zero basis in reality, and he proves such wrong daily. He does all of this because he is stressed for his country and people. Like anyone who's a real American right now, he doesn't do so just because. 8 wars plus facts don't lie. 8 real conflicts, 8 clean endings on his watch. No new boots on ground, that's the record. Start with Israel-Iran. He slapped sanctions so hard Tehran blinked, got a hotline running, pulled our carriers back after that 12-day BS war over before it hit headlines. Then, Cambodia-Thailand border flare-up. Malaysian mediation, sure. But Trump's tariff threat sealed the truce last month. Army stood down. Armenia-Azerbaijan, Nagorno-Karabakh ceasefire after 4 years. He flew in, got both sides to sign in Florida. No UN fluff needed. India-Pakistan-Kashmir mess in May. New Delhi swears they did it solo, but leaks show his trade leverage forced the pause. Artillery quiet now. Egypt-Ethiopia-Nile Dam fight. He hosted talks in D.C., water-sharing deal, saved Africa from drought war. Serbia-Kosovo economic pact. He twisted arms with EU aid, trains running cross-border again after 20 years frozen. Gaza-Israel-Hamas. That's 8. Hosted the Egypt summit, hostages swapped, aid flowing, rockets stopped. Netanyahu credits him flat out. And inside, he's got Portland riots cooled. No fence storming like Portlandia hysterics claimed. Community mediators he flew in fixed it in days. Listen, when you start a war, you gotta know you can win a war. You don't start a war against somebody that's 20 times your size and then hope that people give you some missiles. President Trump facilitated a near settling of conflict within weeks, whereas Biden-Harris Dems just bombed, bled us dry, warmongered on nearly every front for 4 years. Dems and libs are the ones cheering endless Ukraine cash, while ignoring things like the African Christian atrocities, genocides, terrorism, cartels, drugs, repeat offenders, and more. Trillions flushed, if not a lot lost, on bottomless Ukraine aid, while places like Flint, Michigan, Detroit, rabbit hole here, Seattle, Portland, Los Angeles, New York City, Philadelphia, Memphis, Atlanta, Chicago, San Diego, San Francisco, etc. All felled, invaded, left to rot, some with lawlessness for the hardest of offenders even. Trump's draining the swamp, not making it. October 25, wars dragging under Biden's endless blank checks to Ukraine. $200 billion flushed, with zero endgame. Trump's already got envoys in Moscow hashing a ceasefire, pushing for talks that Putin and Zelensky can't ignore. The claim that Trump's meeting with Putin was useless is misleading. Diplomacy like this takes time, and progress was made toward a ceasefire in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. No tanks in streets, no draft, no riots like under Dems. Lefties hate it, because peace doesn't need their chaos. Trump deserves a Nobel Peace Prize because he brokered a ceasefire deal between Iran and Israel. 1. Facilitated de-escalation of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. 2. Signed the Abraham Accords, normalizing Israel-UAE relations. 3. Promoted the Israel-Bahrain diplomatic agreement. 4. Encouraged Serbia-Kosovo economic normalization. 5. Negotiated Taliban peace talks in Afghanistan. 6. Strengthened U.S.-North Korea dialogue. 7. Hosted historic Kim Jong-un summit. 8. Supported India-Pakistan tensions de-escalation. 9. Advanced U.S.-China trade deal, reducing global economic strain. 10. Promoted Middle East peace through economic incentives. 11. Strengthened NATO alliances for collective security. 12. Advocated for global nuclear non-proliferation. 13. Facilitated Israel-Sudan normalization agreement. 14. Supported the Qatar-Saudi Arabia diplomatic reconciliation. 15. Encouraged stability in the Korean Peninsula. 16. Promoted peace through strengthened foreign policy. 17. Backed UN reform for better peacekeeping efforts. 18. Engaged in direct diplomacy with adversarial nations. 19. Prioritized humanitarian aid in conflict zones. Biden. Near nuclear Armageddon. An active war, unauthorized, sent long-range missiles into Ukraine, passing Putin's nuclear thresholds. Nearly killing us all. What's in my article? Trump. Commander-in-Chief preemptive military strike, not an act of war, to quell terrorism, stop terrorists from getting nukes, bring justice and peace to Iran and much of the Middle East, to end war and bring peace. Backed by almost everyone with logic, even the lot of the Iranian people. No president's done this clean since Teddy Roosevelt. And even he got one prize. Trump's stacking 8 mediations like it's Tuesday. They hate it because it kills their warmonger line. Oh, come on, pal. This hysterical Trump wants war spin? It's the same fear-mongering playbook your side ran with Iraq WMDs and Libya, twisting a strong stand against genocide into bloodlust. Trump's not itching for boots on the ground. He's lighting a fire under a corrupt regime that's let Boko Haram slaughter thousands of Christians, over 52,000 dead since 2009, per the International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law, with farms torched and villages erased. That guns a-blazing line? It's a wake-up call, not a declaration, straight from his Truth Social post today, demanding Nigeria halt the aid-drying charade, or face consequences, like cutting the $1.3 billion pipeline that's mostly lined corrupt pockets. Prep for action? Smart deterrence, like Reagan staring down the Soviets without firing a shot. Warmonger? Nah, it's America first. Protect the persecuted, squeeze the enablers, and avoid endless quagmires that Obama and Biden dove into headfirst. Your side's the one cheering endless Ukraine cash while ignoring African atrocities. Keep the outrage selective. the U.S. obliterated Iran's nuclear program in Operation Midnight Hammer. U.S. Army, Navy, Air Force, and Space Force all reached their recruitment goals months in advance. President Trump announced the Warrior Dividend, delivering nearly 1.5 million service members a well-deserved Christmas bonus of $1,776. At President Trump's direction, the United States conducted Operation Absolute Resolve in Venezuela, capturing illegitimate dictator Nicolas Maduro. POTUS has established a pathway to stability in Syria and introduced a comprehensive plan to end the war between Ukraine and Russia. President Trump announced the formation of the Board of Peace that will oversee the demilitarization of Gaza. The Israel conflict peace is something I will do soon. Trump's next in line for this upcoming year's Nobel. No civilians were killed in Venezuela. That's a lib lie. Breaking. Thousands of Chileans flood the streets to celebrate the win of pro-Trump populist Jose Antonio Cast. Chile has defeated communism today. Freedom. President Donald Trump promised Saturday that the United States is ready to help in Iran as protesters face a growing crackdown by the Islamic Republic's leaders. Jog your memory. Obama never sought congressional authorization for these bombings. Syria, 12,192 bombs. Iraq, 12,095 bombs. Libya, 496 bombs. Yemen, 35 bombs. Somalia, 14 bombs. Pakistan, 3 bombs. 26,172 bombs, for a total of 3 bombs every hour, every day. Obama killed tons of innocent brown people overseas, leading to revenge groups like ISIS. They ended for 1 moment. That's on him. He ended 8. Whether they're happening again after or not, you're making excuses. Afghanistan fell. President Trump signed the Doha deal in February 2020, for good reason, because the Taliban already controlled half the country, and we had been bleeding for 19 straight years, with no victory in sight. The deal agreed for the Taliban to stop attacking U.S. troops. No Al-Qaeda safe haven, and we would draw down to 0 if they kept their word. They did keep such, and U.S. combat debts dropped to almost 0 after. Biden took office with 2,500 troops left, a functioning Afghan army of 300,000, and the legal power to rip up the agreement any day he wanted. Instead, he kept the May deadline, then pushed it to September, ignoring his own generals, and then ordered the chaotic midnight Bagram pullout without even telling the Afghan president. This all resulted in 13 dead Marines, $85 billion in gear abandoned, thousands of Americans and allies left behind, and the Taliban in Kabul in 11 days. Trump set a withdrawal timeline. Biden executed the worst surrender in modern history. Trump scheduled the exit. Biden-Harris botched it so badly that we're still cleaning up the mess. Facts don't care about feelings. Own up. He wasn't trying to force it. Holy hell. America would not take in Canada because it would instantly turn us communist. Greenland was a joke offer. None were serious. Just jokes. Besides, we will for a fact need to annex Greenland if WW3 breaks out with us and RU China. We'd have to have a buffer. Everything you say is a flat-out lie. President Barack Obama seems like a cool guy. Smooth talker with that easy charm. But as a leader, he was a disaster. Incompetent and deadly, leaving a trail of treasonous blunders, needless slaughter, and deep divisions that still haunt us. Look, the left's yapping that Trump's nuclear testing talk nukes his Nobel shot? Please. He's not itching for blasts. He's leveling the field because Russia's already firing Yars missiles into the Pacific. China's cranking small reactor nukes on their warships. India's launching subs with 200-megawatt hearts. And North Korea's testing like it's a hobby. We quit detonations back in '92 while everyone else geared up. Now we're the bluff? No way. Testing keeps the arsenal sharp, stops Pyongyang from calling our hand, and yeah, jumps the space race. Starships hauling bases to the moon while our rivals play catch-up. Iran debunked. And just like that, WW3 is stopped. Iran's nuke program got set back a few years. No American soldiers were harmed. A ceasefire has been agreed on. The stock market ended in the green. Donald J. Trump is amazing. No troops were killed. No injuries. Ceasefire secured. While keyboard warriors whine and the media spins lies, real leadership just made history and didn't spill a drop of American blood. This is what strength looks like. To all the confused lefties, we are not at war. Trump did not need congressional approval. Read the Constitution. Under the War Powers Resolution of 1973, the president can lawfully deploy U.S. forces into hostilities or situations where imminent involvement is clear, without prior approval from Congress. Sleeper cells are a verified threat, not just hype. Iran itself sent a direct message to Trump at the G7 summit, per NBC, threatening to activate terror cells in the U.S. if their nuclear sites were hit. Sites Trump's strikes later targeted, like Fordo and Natanz. The FBI has been tracking Hezbollah-linked cells, backed by Iran's IRGC, which have a track record of covert attacks, like the 1994 Buenos Aires bombing. Trump's right to take this seriously. His administration's monitoring these threats to protect Americans, unlike the post-9/11 overreach that fueled division. Your point about avoiding panic and racism is fair. People are sharper now, and resist fear-mongering. But Iran's own words in history make sleeper cells a hard fact. And how has Trump started a war? He deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. Military action is not war. Iran forced this and deserves what is coming. This is undebatable. Trump struck in the name of peace and bringing justice, freedom, and change to the people of Iran. Justice and peace efforts in all conflicts. He does not need approval. WW3 has been well underway. Number of countries involved in WWIL, 60. In 2025, the UN and other sources track about 110 active armed conflicts worldwide, affecting around 80 to 90 nations directly or indirectly through military support, proxy funding, or peacekeeping. The Russia-Ukraine war alone pulls in about 50 countries, mostly via aid to Ukraine, while others like the Israel-Gaza conflict, Syria, Yemen, and smaller insurgencies in Africa and Asia rope in additional players through arms, alliances, or sanctions. It's not World War II's centralized chaos, but the web of involvement is crazy complex. We have been mere moments away from all-out nuclear war every day for over a year, and these wars are only growing. More wars are starting, as seen with China, Taiwan, India, and Pakistan. More countries conflict now than in WWIL, just with RU and Ukraine war alone, which has pulled in the 4 biggest superpowers in the world. Iran is deserved and needed. Stop fear-mongering and dividing like you lefties always do, and allow them to get nukes, to bomb Israel and threaten the US and our president? Adalnaz.Tayaban said, "No, you just paralyzed the most dangerous threat to the world, the Islamic Republic. You took its nuclear capabilities and saved us all from the World War III. P.S. I'm Iranian. Believe me, I know what I'm talking about. My heart is broken to see my homeland is burning, but I am happy these monsters, our government, are falling. Iran may strike back, but that is to be expected and dealt with. We will secure and defend America. We are America. You attack or threaten us, and it'll likely be your last doing, and you will have wished you hadn't." People are only defending the Iranian regime because they hate Trump. They literally have no idea the kind of evil they're defending. If they did, they'd stop defending them. The regime kills Muslims for the way they practice Islam, kills LGBTQ, kills musicians, kills visual artists, kills people for dancing in public, kills creatives, and believes in destroying all nations whose citizens are living freely and aren't under Sharia law. Democrats defend the Islamic regime and all their violence because secretly they admire them. They wish they could kill everyone who is different than them or doesn't believe the same things. Every day, I hear Democrats calling for violence or death against someone they don't agree with. He is trying everything he can. He is trying to bring peace and negotiate. It is a complex conflict. Iran is an enemy to both the Israel and the US. If they must be fought, then they must be fought. Knox More BS, PT 205, February 14th, 2026. PT 205. They are evil, terrorists, who strike civilians, hospitals, Israel, and threaten us now. They cannot be allowed nuclear weapons, nor to strike us without being struck back. White genocide is real. Trump's statement aligns with a broader right-wing narrative in the US and globally, which sometimes portrays white communities as under existential threat. This resonates with certain political audiences, but oversimplifies South Africa's complex socioeconomic and historical context. Trump may have amplified the claim to appeal to his base, leveraging emotionally charged rhetoric to draw attention to a perceived injustice, even if the framing was inaccurate. The issue gained traction among some conservative circles, partly fueled by misinformation online and advocacy from groups exaggerating the scale or intent of the violence. There are documentaries about it even. Transvaal Agricultural Union, TAUSA. This union reports 1,363 white farmers murdered between 1990 and 2024, averaging 40 to 50 per year. This is a genocide. People from the area say it is easily more than 50 a year, and that they don't report well, cannot report them all adequately, etc. The 30 to 50 farm murders reported each year, like 32 in 2024 and 50 in 2023 from AfriForum and TAUSA, are probably lower than the real number. South African police stats are patchy, especially in rural areas where crimes can go unreported or miscategorized. Small farms and remote plots often get overlooked, and not every case hits the media. Underreporting's a big deal. Data gaps and inconsistent police records could easily push the real count of white farmer murders over 50, maybe even closer to 70, as some folks claim. It's a murky situation, and the official numbers don't tell the full story. AfriForum has claimed that official South African police stats underreport farm murders, suggesting the real number of white farmer deaths could be higher than the reported 30 to 50 per year. They've submitted lists to the police to prove it, pointing to gaps in rural crime reporting. Check their site or statements from March 2025 for more on this. This is what strength looks like. Sleeper cells are a verified threat, not just hype. Iran itself sent a direct message to Trump at the G7 summit, per NBC, threatening to activate terror cells in the U.S. if their nuclear sites were hit, sites Trump's strikes later targeted, like Fordow and Natanz. The FBI has been tracking Hezbollah-linked cells, backed by Iran's IRGC, which have a track record of covert attacks, like the 1994 Buenos Aires bombing. Trump's right to take this seriously. His administration's monitoring these threats to protect Americans, unlike the post-9/11 overreach that fueled division. Your point about avoiding panic and racism is fair. People are sharper now and resist fear-mongering. But Iran's own words and history make sleeper cells a hard fact. Remember how we got here. Hillary Clinton supplied Iran with uranium to enrich their nuclear program. Barack Obama gave Iran $1.7 billion that they used to fund their nuclear program. Joe Biden unfroze over $16 billion of funds for Iran. The boats President Trump targeted weren't innocent fishing vessels. They were tied to drug trafficking, specifically linked to narco-terrorist groups like Tren de Aragua, operating out of Venezuela. Recent strikes, including the latest one, were precision hits in international waters on vessels carrying illegal narcotics headed for the U.S., not random civilians. The evidence, like videos Trump posted and statements from the White House, shows these were calculated moves against clear threats, not some reckless attack on innocents. Posts on X and news reports confirm the focus was on disrupting drug routes, not harming fishermen. It's just another distortion from the left, trying to muddy the waters. Folks, this hysterical hand-wringing from the left about President Trump's decisive strikes on narco-terrorists is peak Democrat deflection, crying about due process for cartel thugs while fentanyl floods our streets, killing 100,000 Americans a year and turning families into tragedies. All due process angles are fully debunked, and you can find the already made piece I did on that tagged. These aren't innocent fishermen, they're Tren de Aragua cockers and Maduro's smuggling pawns, hauling death across our borders in international waters, confirmed by ironclad intel we've shared with Congress. No judge or jury? Give me a break. These savages don't get Miranda rights any more than Al-Qaeda did under Bush or ISIS under Obama. Trump's not playing judge. He's enforcing the law of war against designated terrorists, saving lives here at home by cutting off the venom at the source. If the globalist elites want to virtue signal for Venezuelan gangs, fine, but real Americans back winners who put America first over endless red tape. This isn't danger, it's deliverance. Who's with me? This is a debunked lie. Calling the Department of War so is just stating reality. It is the DPT of war. It is to usher a new era of U.S. We are done being used, abused, attacked, threatened, and walked on. It's about time we've toughened up. Officials have said gunmen abduct more than 200 children, 12 teachers in Nigerian Catholic school attack. No, that's alarmist hype. Trump's statement isn't a legal closure or war declaration. It's a strong advisory to deter flights amid rising threats from Maduro's regime. Backed by FAA's NOTAM system. Per Politico and BBC, November 29, 2025, he tweeted a warning to airlines and pilots to avoid Venezuelan airspace due to hostile activities. But the U.S. can't unilaterally shut it down. It's Maduro's sovereign turf, and international routes stay open under ICAO rules. Global News, November 29. No military ops launched. It's economic pressure like the naval buildup we've discussed, authorized under existing sanctions. State Department, Aug 2025. Chill with the panic. Iran has factually been attacking and threatening us, our allies, and their own people for decades, with no godly reason. They chant death to America en masse for decades, threatening our soil and sending us nuclear threats. You don't strike us and kill Americans without being struck back. This is America 101. People mix Greenland and Iceland up sometimes. His Greenland proposal was a strategic acquisition, not an invasion threat. He viewed it as a vital asset for national security, especially in the event of a global conflict where it could serve as a butter zone against Russia and other adversaries. Greenland deal was literally genius. Got them to secure and defend Greenland for us. We don't have to do stuff. BTW, they're working for diplomatic deals. He never threatened nuclear redline. Trump has consistently maintained that Iran will never be allowed to possess a nuclear weapon, warning that rebuilding nuclear capabilities would result in the U.S. knocking the hell out of them. Trump's Greenland move was literally genius defense. China and Russia are actively showing interest in Greenland due to its vast natural resources, particularly critical minerals, and its strategic Arctic location, which is becoming more accessible as ice melts, prompting increased U.S. and NATO attention on the region's military and trade routes. President Trump puts everything on the table in negotiations. It is a brilliant move. We can't have Russians and Chinese setting up rocket launch pads near the Arctic Circle. We need iron domes set up in Greenland. The residents of Greenland will be taken care of well. Look at a nuclear map and you'll see why we need it. Involvement in Venezuela. Rubio is currently the primary U.S. official managing the transition in Venezuela, following the capture of Nicolás Maduro by U.S. forces in early January. Current role. He is directing U.S. policy toward a three-phase stabilization plan to restore order and eventually hold democratic elections. Governance rumors. Although President Trump has stated the U.S. is in charge of Venezuela for now, Rubio has clarified that the U.S. is not governing the country day to day, but is using maximum leverage, such as controlling all revenues, to force policy changes. False rumors. Memes and humorous rumors have circulated about Rubio becoming president of Venezuela or even Cuba. Rubio has dismissed these as jokes, even humorously denying rumors that he was seeking a leadership position with the Miami Dolphins. Why are our allies fighting us and not making deals? If RU and China goes for it, Greenland's messed up, and we'd have no buffer in the middle of a world war. Messed up. We need it as a buffer, same as we needed buffers and annexations in previous world wars. They decided just to be a-holes and fight us instead of making deals to secure and defend our interests there, which we have a right to do. Just in, U.S. President Donald Trump announced in a social media post that he had canceled a previously expected second wave of attacks on Venezuela due to the country's cooperation with the U.S. Excuses? Lamo. Russia is not like Germany and Japan in WW2. Russia, China, Iran and their proxies, as well as North Korea are all cited in this, with RU encroaching on Greenland. It is a middle ground buffer between us and them. Trump is not trying to take the country. He did not with Venezuela, and y'all tried to claim the same with that. Annexing is not invasion. It is a necessary tool in war. He will do deals likely. If not an RU tries, we will secure and defend our interests and make a buffer zone. He will work with them, make deals. We have bases there. We are allowed to secure and defend against subs and RU marine vehicles intruding Greenland's waters. They will take Greenland because they need it. It's us or them. You're picking them, you are not American. We are a NATO country, as are they. We can move ships there. Yes, the U.S. can move its naval vessels, including those capable of fulfilling the role of battleships, in the international waters around Greenland, and has a long-standing defense agreement with Denmark that permits a military presence in Greenland. Millions celebrate freedom/Maduro. President Trump stuns the world by saying oil executives will pour $100 billion of their own money, not taxpayers, to rebuild Venezuela. This is how you put America first. Thank you for the oil. Fetterman closed by reminding viewers what Maduro actually did. Let's remember, 8 million Venezuelans were displaced and mass chaos, and now they were shipping drugs to our nation as well, too. So for me, it's like why as a Democrat, we can't just acknowledge that it was successful. John Fetterman torched his own party for refusing to acknowledge the success of President Trump's Maduro raid. The camp was 38 kilometers deep in the jungle, no villages within 20 kilometers, confirmed by Maxar satellite from Jan 1 and Jan 3. Live Reaper drone footage from 90 minutes before the strike showed 81 adult males in TDA uniforms doing weapons drills. 0 women, 0 kids, 0 farmers. Thermal signatures and radio chatter, intercepted in Spanish, were all cartel members bragging about the Christmas massacre in Arauca, Colombia. Post-strike BDA, battle damage assessment, drone passes, plus Colombian SOF on the ground 6 hours later recovered 63 bodies, all adult males, all in TAE vests, all with rifles or sidearms. Maduro's 19 innocent farmers claim came with photos that are literally from a 2019 Colombian Air Force strike. Reverse image search plus EXIF data prove it. So yeah, we know exactly who was there, because we watched them for 3 days straight before we turned them into red mist. 0 civilians, 63 DED gang members. That's not murder, that's pest control. Coffin nailed. I love how the first comment is a Venezuelan telling a libtard how it is. May freedom ring true for your country and your people. Dems and libs love dictators and narco-terrorists. Trump president added that he didn't want a new leader to take over in the wake of Maduro's capture. That would result in the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about, Trump added. We can't take a chance that somebody else takes over Venezuela that doesn't have the good of the Venezuelan people in mind. Venezuelans celebrate Nicolas Maduro's capture, following by the millions around the world. He never said he was going to invade or take by force. He said he would not. He said he wants to talk and make deals. They are probably coming to defend it from RU. If so, Trump's genius in that he made them defend them and not us. Taking Greenland talked out for 100 years. Trump many times has verbally confirmed that he never said he would take it by force. It is needed for national security concerns. He said, "We'll wait and see what happens." That's what I'm saying. Why are our allies not working with us? We have our interests and bases there too. Why are not allowed to annex, not invade, to secure and defend our interests and ensure a buffer so they don't get superiority? Annex is not invasion, technically. Military annexation is often needed, the other 2 previous world wars. We have tried to buy Greenland at least 5 other times under different presidents. Under Nicolas Maduro 2013 present, Credible estimates put direct state-attributed deaths, extrajudicial killings, protest deaths, political repression at around 25,000 to 30,000. That's mostly the 20,000 plus resistance to authority killings by security forces, FAES, etc., documented by UN, HRW, OHCHR from 2016 to 2020, plus several hundred more in protests 2014, 2017, 2019, 2024. Indirect deaths from the humanitarian crisis, malnutrition, lack of medicine, preventable diseases add hundreds of thousands more, but the direct regime-responsible toll is in that 25K to 30K range. Under Chavismo socialism overall, Chavez plus Maduro, 1999 present. T. Maduro himself, tens of thousands. Total Venezuela since 1999, around 700,000. Not billions, that would be the entire country twice over. Even the worst communist regimes never hit that. China under Mao, 40 to 70 million. Venezuela's collapse killed hundreds of thousands, not tens of millions, not billions. The numbers are bad, but they're not apocalypse level, just tragedy level. Reasons cited by the US government and allies. Addressing criminal charges, Maduro and his wife face indictments in the US District Court for the Southern District of New York on serious charges including narco-terrorism conspiracy, drug trafficking, and weapons charges. The US government designated the group Maduro allegedly leads, the Cartel de los Soles, as a foreign terrorist organization. Their capture is seen as an action to bring them to justice in an American court. Ending an illegitimate regime, the US and many other nations do not recognize Maduro as the legitimate president of Venezuela, viewing his 2018 and 2024 election wins as fraudulent. His capture is seen as the removal of an authoritarian leader who clung to power despite the public's will for change. Human rights concerns. Maduro's government has been widely accused of extensive human rights violations and brutal crackdowns on free expression. Hope he puts boots on the ground in Mexico, he should. They've been at war with the cartels, boots on in some places, just not on their soil yet. They already started a war months ago. They were warned. They would not stop funding terrorism, cartels, and trafficking directly our way. We put boots on the ground in Mexico too. Literally been hoping for this stuff since I was in high school, lol. About time. We combat terrorism worldwide, Dems enabled and helped such. We make arrests and hold accountable, strike boats, not enable them to come and kill our citizens. Huge difference. They've been waging war against us and have killed millions of Americans from their drugs and cartels. We warned them to stop bringing drugs and criminals over, and they kept coming. They had oil tankers running smuggling ops, and a president who was essentially a cartel kingpin. This is exactly the stuff America goes after worldwide, terrorists and threats to world peace. This isn't even a Trump thing, it's a Republican thing, lol. Dems would never do something like this. America's been doing just this kind of thing for decades and decades, toppling dictators and regimes all over that threaten world peace and cause suffering. Sometimes it doesn't work out great, and another dictator just takes over. Clarifying the figures. $88.6 billion. The total amount the United States appropriated for Afghan security assistance over a 20-year period, 2001 to 2021. This money covered a vast array of expenses beyond just hardware, including salaries, construction, training, and maintenance. $7.12 billion. The official value of U.S.-funded military equipment left in Afghanistan that fell into the Taliban's hands, according to an August 2022 Department of Defense (DoD) report. This is the verified value of the abandoned assets. He offered to buy Greenland peacefully, like historical U.S. purchases, Alaska, Louisiana, not a threat to their sovereignty. The secondary strike on the Tren de Aragua boat wasn't a war crime. It's a textbook case of lawful self-defense under rules of engagement that saved American lives from cartel poison. The SEP-2 op targeted a confirmed fentanyl hauling vessel in international waters, with the initial hit killing 11 narco-mules. Intel from MQ-9 drones showed 2 armed survivors clinging to wreckage, reaching for hidden weapons compartments, posing an immediate threat, so the Admiral's follow-up fire neutralized it per DoD protocol. Pentagon briefing November 29, 2025. Fox News, December 4, 2025, report on JAG review. No innocence. Crews were vetted cartel with smuggling priors. FBI unseals November 12, 2025. And LOAC experts confirm it's compliant. No targeting of surrendered. Lawfare Oct 25, 2025, Reuters, December 1, 2025. Fox 11's uncertainty? Balanced journalism noting probes, but facts clear. 1.2 tons precursors seized, 60 million ODs averted. Your hysteria's the real risk. Coffin nailed. Legal, lethal lives saved. No, that's a hysterical lefty spin, recycling AP and WAPO anonymous leaks, November 7, 2025, November 28, 2025, to humanize narco-terrorists as innocent fishermen. But the facts from DoD briefings and post-strike probes shred it. All 3 boats struck since SEP-2, 2025. 2 Venezuelan flagged, 1 Ecuadorian. were confirmed Tren de Aragua cartel vessels hauling fentanyl precursors via MQ-9 drone overwatch and NRO satellite tracks from Maduro ports. DoD after action Oct 20th, 2025. BBC, Oct 20th, 2025. Crews of 11 DAD were vetted as cartel mules with prior smuggling raps, not humble fishermen. FBI warrants unsealed November 12, 2025. Reuters, November 7, 2025. One AP-sourced fisherman, a $100 month cover story for a 2024 USPS fentanyl bus convict. AP November 7, 2025, fact-check, debunked as Maduro propaganda. No collateral innocence, just 3.6 tons, seized, worth 180 million, lethal doses. Hegseth SOPs. Lawful under FTO designation. EO Jan 20th, 2025. Factcheck.org, October 30th, 2025. Your sob stories are the real fiction. Coffin nailed. Cartels sunk, lies afloat. No, that's a hysterical lefty spin, twisting Trump's strategic diplomacy into some call to erase nations. But the facts prove he never once said any country should not exist. Not Canada, not Venezuela, not Iran, not Denmark. His Greenland proposal was a strategic acquisition, not an invasion threat. Trump viewed it as a vital asset for national security, especially in the event of a global conflict, where it could serve as a buffer zone against Russia and other adversaries. Politico, Aug 20th, 2019. CNN, Aug 18th, 2019. The lefty claims about Canada becoming the 51st state? Pure fiction. Trump jokingly floated the idea in 2018 as a thought experiment, but he would never seriously pursue it, knowing it would flood America with socialist policies and liberal governance that would undermine our economic and cultural foundation. Fox News, Jan 12, 2018. Newsweek, Jan 11, 2018. Trump's decisive strikes on narco-terrorists. These aren't random fishermen. These are cartel boats, tracked relentlessly from start to finish by drone surveillance. MQ-9 Reapers providing 24/7 overwatch, per DoD briefing, October 16, 2025, via ABC News timeline. Satellite imagery, NRO assets locking coordinates with 95% accuracy, as detailed in the White House Narco-Terrorism AUMF memo, Aug 2025, NYT, November 13, 2025. And SIGINT intercepts, NSA-monitored comms confirming Tren de Aragua manifests, BBC, Oct 20th, 2025. Eyes on every move, from Venezuelan ports to Caribbean routes, hauling 1.2 tons of fentanyl precursors, enough for 60 million lethal doses, verified by pre-strike boarding intel. Coast Guard seizure reports, Fortune, November 16, 2025. Dangerous illegals, confirmed. Crews tied to Maduro's Cartel of the Suns, designated terrorists, smuggling death to kill Americans. Al Jazeera, November 30, 2025. Wikipedia, 2025 strikes entry. No willy-nilly hits, just displays of force warning cartels. Keep coming, face war. We labeled them terrorists, now we eliminate the threat. Trafficking confirmed, lives saved. America's with winners putting us first. Coffin nailed, precision, not panic. John Oliver, April 2025 debunked. The biggest points this video makes. The video in reference, https://www.hh34jcpesf si is VYAG MIN BHNO2 SVVC. Quick note, this late-night talk show host mostly gives word salad and manipulates. While he is good at jokes, he jokes around other bigger facts and issues, such as Democrats. Streamlining and merging into AHA is good. The Administration for a Healthy America AHA is intended to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, by consolidating several existing agencies. Proponents argue that this restructuring will streamline decision-making, reduce administrative bloat, and foster better collaboration across different sectors. AHA aims to better coordinate chronic care and disease prevention programs, particularly for low-income Americans, and harmonize health resources. HHS.gov. Stanford used NIH funds to purchase a yacht and redecorate the president's house. Are the school's 200 employees who work in DEL funded by NIH grants? How much of this indirect money is supporting research that makes America healthy? Schools open to line item audit? Capping indirect costs to 15% means that 85% of the government funding goes toward the actual scientific research. If the institutions that receive NIH money have a track record of spending more than 15% on indirect costs, then that means that the institutions themselves are the ones who are taking the money away from the actual scientific research. https://www.cbsnews.com AMP News RFK&JR HHS job cuts Doge mistakes. Progress takes errors a lot of times. Oliver starts picking apart RFK's points. The general prevalence of ADHD in adolescents, ages 12 to 17, is around 15.5%. This means that approximately 1 in 6 adolescents have been diagnosed with ADHD. The prevalence of ADHD is higher in adolescents than in younger children, ages 6 to 11. The United States population is equivalent to 4.22% of the total world population. RFK is correct in saying this. The United States is the world's largest pharmaceutical market, and a significant portion of that market is driven by the high utilization of pharmaceuticals by Americans. Several factors contribute to this. Americans are more likely to take multiple medications, and the U.S. often has faster access to new drugs, making it an attractive market for pharmaceutical companies. Additionally, the U.S. has a relatively low level of price regulation and few barriers to market entry for drugs, leading to higher prices overall. We certainly provide more than half. He was exaggerating. RFK is clearly exaggerating from the first word. February 14, 2026, PT 3 of 5. Not saying all vaccines are bad. COVID ones were too rushed. We need to be safer. The companies even admitted and saved money for lawsuits because they knew they were fast-tracked and were going to have a lot of reactions. End of Oliver DEBUNK. Trump. For many years, the world has wondered why prescription drugs and pharmaceuticals in the United States of America were so much higher in price than they were in any other nation, sometimes being 5 to 10 times more expensive than the same drug manufactured in the exact same laboratory or plant by the same company. It was always difficult to explain and very embarrassing because, in fact, there was no correct or rightful answer. Campaign contributions can do wonders, but not with me and not with the Republican Party. We are going to do the right thing, something that the Democrats have fought for many years. Therefore, I am pleased to announce that tomorrow morning, in the White House, at 9 a.m., I will be signing one of the most consequential executive orders in our country's history. Prescription drug and pharmaceutical prices will be reduced almost immediately by 30% to 80%. They will rise throughout the world in order to equalize, and for the first time in many years, bring fairness to America. I will be instituting a most favored nations policy, whereby the United States will pay the same price as the nation that pays the lowest price anywhere in the world. Our country will finally be treated fairly, and our citizens' healthcare costs will be reduced by numbers never even thought of before. Additionally, on top of everything else, the United States will save trillions of dollars. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. COVID-19 handling. The claim that Trump did nothing during the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 is an oversimplification and doesn't hold up when you look at the timeline and actions taken. Here's a breakdown. Early response, January-February 2020. Trump established the White House Coronavirus Task Force on January 29, 2020, to coordinate the federal response. On January 31st, he imposed travel restrictions on China, one of the earliest moves by any major country, which was criticized by some as xenophobic, but later credited by others with slowing the virus's spread. The CDC began developing tests, though there were issues with faulty kits. March 2020 actions. On March 11, Trump banned travel from Europe. On March 13, he declared a national emergency, unlocking federal resources and funding. He also signed the CARES Act on March 27, a $2.2 trillion stimulus package to support businesses, individuals, and healthcare systems. Operation Warp Speed, launched later in 2020, aimed to accelerate vaccine development, leading to vaccines by year's end. Criticisms and missteps. Trump's public messaging was often inconsistent, downplaying the virus's severity at times, e.g., predicting it would disappear. His push for hydroxychloroquine lacked scientific backing, and testing delays were a significant issue, partly due to bureaucratic hurdles at the CDC and FDA. Some argue he deferred too much to state governors, leading to a patchwork response. Context. The pandemic was unprecedented, and information was evolving rapidly. Many countries struggled with similar issues, testing shortages, mixed messaging, and balancing economic and health priorities. Critics point out that Trump's skepticism of experts and focus on reopening may have undermined containment, but supporters argue he acted decisively with travel bans and economic relief. Saying he did nothing ignores the record. Travel restrictions, emergency declarations, and economic measures were significant steps. However, the response was far from flawless, with communication and testing being notable weak points. The truth lies in the messy middle. Actions were taken, but the effectiveness and coherence varied. Did you know that half of the people who died during the COVID-19 pandemic died of other reasons, and the hospital marked them as COVID to get the money? Wait until everyone finds out hospitals nationwide murdered people simply to collect COVID subsidies at $483,000 per death. Sounds like fiction, but it is not. I firsthand know that hospitals often sometimes intentionally worsen patients to profit. POTS is a big thing after getting the jab, the Fauci ouchie. Doing an entire piece soon on Fauci and all of the Tylenol stuff. Now so are immune system problems and other issues like blood clots. They knew it wasn't safe when releasing it, and they saved money for the incoming lawsuits. Claims that the one big beautiful bill adds to the deficit are false. Fact. Extending the current tax rates in the one big beautiful bill has zero impact on the deficit, contrary to misleading forecasts like the CBO's, which wrongly assume President Trump's 2017 tax cuts will expire. The CBO's own projections show tariffs alone slashing the deficit by $2.8 trillion over the next decade. And when you add in President Trump's other economic wins, like energy independence, deregulation, and border security boosting hundreds of billions in revenue, we're making trillions in return to the president and all the great things he's changing and doing. Just from the border alone, we're making hundreds of billions. We are making great progress on the one big beautiful bill. Our economy is doing well, but it's going to boom in a way never seen before. We are going to do no tax on tips, no tax on senior Social Security, no tax on overtime, and much more. It will be the biggest tax cut for middle and working class Americans by far, and it is time for Main Street to win. Make America great again. Nonsense fear-mongering. I implore people to read the bill. Tax credit for seniors on Social Security, no tax on tips, no tax on OT, extending the tax cuts from Trump's first term, getting illegal immigrants off Medicaid, increased child tax credit, interest deduction on U.S.-made cars, eliminates electric car mandates, finish the wall, increase funding for Border Patrol, small business 199A deduction to 23%, increased military Coast Guard funding, cancels the tuition bailout BS, and a whole lot more. Cutting Medicare. Trump's likely to push back hard against Medicare cuts. He's built a brand on protecting seniors, repeatedly vowing to safeguard Medicare during his campaigns and presidency. In 2020, he signed executive orders to lower drug prices and protect Medicare benefits, framing himself as a defender of the program. His base, being older voters, especially expects it, and he knows they're a key demographic. Any cuts, especially deep ones, would spark backlash he'd want to avoid, particularly if he's eyeing political capital for 2028 or beyond. That said, he's also a deal-maker. If cuts are tied to a broader fiscal package, like tax breaks or infrastructure, might negotiate, provided he can spin it as a win. His first term showed he's pragmatic when it suits him, like signing budgets with deficit spending despite GOP calls for austerity. But publicly, he'll likely rail against cuts, using fiery rhetoric to rally supporters, even if behind closed doors, he's open to compromise. The catch? His administration's priorities, like deregulation or military spending, could clash with Medicare's funding needs. If advisors like Musk or fiscal hawks push for entitlement reform, he might face pressure to soften his stance. However, opponents highlight that Medicare provides coverage to 65 million Americans, 2024, many of whom rely on it as their primary insurance. Cuts could increase uninsured rates, already 8% for non-elderly adults in 2023, or force states to absorb costs, straining local budgets. The claim about wholesale gasoline prices being around $1.98 per gallon is close to accurate. Data shows wholesale prices at $1.99 in the Gulf Coast and $2.02 nationally as of early May 2025, with regional variations. However, this doesn't align with retail prices, which average $3.18 nationally. Trump's old statement about prices being below $2 in many states likely referred to wholesale, not retail, which may cause confusion since consumers pay the higher retail price at the pump. The claim that millions will lose healthcare and because of the one big beautiful bill is exaggerated and not fully supported by evidence, as it overlooks the bill's focus on cutting waste and ineligible recipients while protecting legal citizens' access. Federal law already excludes undocumented immigrants from Medicaid and ACA benefits, except for limited emergency care in some states, so any coverage losses would primarily affect those not legally eligible, not law-abiding Americans. The bill, as stated by the Trump administration, aims to strengthen Medicaid for its intended recipients, citizens like you, by removing fraudulent or ineligible users, saving over $1 trillion without cutting core benefits for working-class families. Claims of mass deaths are speculative fear-mongering, lacking data showing direct harm to local residents' healthcare access. If the BBB does not pass, biggest tax increase ever hits, with Trump tax cuts expiring. 2. Families lose up to $13,000 in annual income. 3. Small businesses face a $4 trillion tax hike, stifling growth. 4. Over 1 million small business jobs disappear yearly. Economic growth stalls, costing Main Street $750 billion. 6. Workers miss $11,600 in wage increases. 7. Border security weakens, undoing recent immigration enforcement gains. 8. Deportation efforts slow, allowing illegal immigration to surge unchecked. 9. National debt climbs faster without fiscal reforms in place. 10. Energy costs rise as regulations revert to pre-bill policies. 11. Household budgets shrink, with higher taxes hitting essentials hard. 12. Manufacturing jobs decline, losing global competitiveness edge. 13. Inflation spikes, driven by unchecked spending and deficits. 14. Healthcare costs soar without bills cost control measures. 15. Rural communities lose funding for infrastructure and jobs. 16. Trade deficits widen, harming American exporters significantly. 17. Investment in tech innovation drops, slowing advancements. 18. Middle-class savings erode under higher tax burdens. 19. School choice programs stall, limiting parental options. 20. National security risks grow without border and defense funding. Plus more. Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill eliminates over $1 trillion in green energy subsidies, boosts oil and gas to keep electricity prices low, drives economic growth, and protects American jobs. As the White House proudly states, it's a bold move to prioritize energy independence and American workers. The tax cuts from the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act have been extended permanently through the One Big Beautiful Bill passed by the House and Senate. The CBO's deficit forecasts are off because they assume the cuts expire, ignoring their continuation. $1.7 trillion in planned spending cuts, and $2.3 to $3.3 trillion in expected tariff revenues. Posts on X confirm the White House is pushing the benefits, like bigger paychecks and job protection, which aligns with the 80% of Americans who'd face tax hikes otherwise. Right? It looks like Congress is pushing to extend those tax cuts through the One Big Beautiful Bill, which passed the House and Senate recently, making the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act provisions permanent. The CBO and similar forecasts often assume expiration, which can skew deficit numbers, not accounting for the likely extension or spending cuts, like $1.7 trillion proposed in the bill, or potential tariff revenues, which some estimate could bring in $2.3 to $3.3 trillion. That's the gap critics point to when saying CBO misses marks. NGO estimates of tax cuts can be inaccurate due to several factors, including differences in modeling and assumptions. Economic forecasting is complex and involves making assumptions about how people and businesses will respond to tax policy changes. Different NGOs may use different economic models and base their analyses on varying assumptions, leading to divergent estimates of the impact of tax cuts. Duration and financing of tax cuts. The estimated cost and impact of tax cuts can vary significantly, depending on whether they are temporary or permanent, and whether or not they are offset by spending cuts or other revenue increases. Focus and priorities. NGOs may prioritize different aspects of tax policy and its impact on specific groups. For example, some NGOs may focus on how tax cuts affect income inequality, while others may emphasize their potential impact on economic growth. This can lead to differing interpretations of the same tax policy. Incomplete information. NGOs may not always have access to the same level of detailed information as government agencies when making their estimates. Fact: Trump has the authority to enact tariffs under laws like the Trade Act of 1974. His past tariffs, like those on China, have been challenged but not ruled illegal. Trump's claim of $4 trillion in tariffs on August 12 isn't a lie when you see the full scope of his economic plan. The $96 billion collected by August is just the start. His policies, including $81.5 billion from tariffs since January 2025, and $106.1 billion overall, are driving massive revenue. Combined with border security saving billions by cutting enforcement costs, a 93% drop in southwest border apprehensions, and deportations reducing public service expenses, his strategy is on track to bring in $17 trillion, proving critics wrong. Trump's claim that China pays for tariffs isn't a lie when you consider the broader economic dynamics. His strategy pressures China to absorb costs through lower prices or lost sales, effectively shifting the burden. Critics calling him a liar oversimplify. Tariffs hit China's economy hard, and Trump's leveraging that to protect American interests. Studies like those from Princeton show U.S. consumers bear some costs, but China's exporters feel the squeeze too, proving Trump's not just making it up. Last Labor Day gas prices hit lowest in 5 years. The claim that President Trump stripped nearly 500,000 federal workers of union rights is misleading. His executive orders, issued in March and August 2025, directed agencies to end certain collective bargaining agreements, citing national security concerns under a 1978 law allowing such exemptions for roles critical to intelligence, counterintelligence, or national security. Affected workers, numbering over 445,000 across agencies like the VA and EPA, retain fundamental labor rights but lose specific union contract protections, such as negotiated telework or extended leave. This is not a blanket removal of union rights, but a targeted action to prioritize policy implementation. As Trump argues, these contracts can obstruct national security objectives. Legal challenges continue, with unions alleging retaliation, but courts have upheld his authority pending further litigation. The claim that Trump's edict on Labor Day outlawed collective bargaining for 2/3 of the federal workforce is wrong. His March and August 2025 executive orders targeted specific union contracts, impacting over 445,000 workers, using a 1978 law for national security reasons. These workers still have basic labor rights, but lose certain negotiated benefits like telework or extended leave to prioritize policy goals. Courts are backing his authority for now, despite ongoing lawsuits. It's not about gutting unions, but focusing on security needs. Look, Trump never promised food prices would crash overnight. He said they'd stabilize and start dropping under his policies, And guess what? They are. Inflation for groceries is down to 2.9% now, from 11.4% under Biden-Harris, who pumped $3 trillion in stimulus that juiced prices sky high. Plus endless regulations choking farms and ports. Eggs dropped 23%, fruits down 12%, meats easing. Tariffs aren't the villain, they're forcing fair trade on China, dumping cheap stuff. Yeah, some things like beef ticked up short-term from bird flu or supply kinks, but that's global, not Trump. The real crime? Democrats let inflation rage for 3 years before admitting it. Trump's crew is turning the ship. No more Biden price shock. Look, the ad cuts Reagan's speech right where he says trade wars hurt everyone, but skips the part where he says, I will not hesitate to use tariffs when Americans are being cheated. That's not public domain. That's propaganda. Reagan slapped Japan with 100% on motorcycles and saved Harley-Davidson. Same playbook Trump's using now. The clip's real, but it's chopped up to lie. And if they're editing Reagan to attack tariffs, that's not an ad. It's an act of economic war. Trump didn't get fragile. He got smart. And that's why Canada's premier called him begging for a deal today. Fragile? We call it winning. Trump never said 200% off gas. Never. He said, I quote, we're going to bring prices down 600, 700, 900%. Not on gas. On grocery items, eggs, milk, because when you stop shipping tariffs on China and you start making deals and you stop subsidizing Chinese corn, American farmers don't have to jack prices. And 900% off? That's not literal genius, that's emphasis. Like saying I'm 1,000% sure you're a fool doesn't mean I'm 1,200 times more sure than 100. It's language, not math. But go ahead, keep parroting the talking point. Meanwhile, Biden's at $5 a gallon. Trump's talking about how he got it down to 2 when he was in. That part checks out. Yours? Not even close. That 1,000%? Hyperbole, not a promise. And he's the best at this. Insulin's $35 now. Cancer meds cut 50%. Generics flooding in faster than ever. CNN cherry-picks one drug that ticked up 4% while ignoring the 10 that crashed. List prices down 43% overall since day one. Their fact check? Mostly false. Why? Because they don't count progress, only failure. Trump's the guy who actually made it happen. Best drug price cuts in decades. Trump will remove able-bodied adults who have lived in Section 8 housing for years with no disabilities. This what you voted for? Oh man, this 42 million at risk hysteria? Total Democrat fear-mongering to bail out their shutdown stunt. Snaps funded through October. States got the cash already. November, they've got a $6 billion contingency fund sitting there. But nope, they're playing chicken with families to score political points. Classic big government trap. Keep folks hooked on handouts instead of real jobs. Trump's team is pushing to end this mess fast. Fix the budget, cut the waste, and get America back to work. Who's really starving the system here? Look, the ad cuts Reagan's speech right where he says trade wars hurt everyone, but skips the part where he says, I will not hesitate to use tariffs when Americans are being cheated. That's not public domain. That's propaganda. Reagan slapped Japan with 100% on motorcycles and saved Harley-Davidson. Same playbook Trump's using now. The clip's real, but it's chopped up to lie. And if they're editing Reagan to attack tariffs, that's not an ad. It's an act of economic war. Trump didn't get fragile. He got smart. And that's why Canada's premier called him begging for a deal today. Fragile? We call it winning. Oh sure, nothing was skipped. Then explain why every full transcript of that speech has the tariff line. Reagan, protectionism is destructionism. I will not stand by and let Americans be cheated by dumping. I will use tariffs. Your ad starts right after cheated, cuts to the next sentence. That's not editing, that's time travel. The White House archives have the audio. You want me to pull the timestamp? 27 seconds in, he drops the tariff bomb. Then goes to hurt everyone. They literally snipped it out. If that's not skipping, call it what it is, lying by omission. Reagan would have sued them for defamation. Many tariffs are just temporary to drive market shifts and force hands, bettering trade and deals. Yeah, look, reciprocal tariffs aren't about scapegoating, they're about leverage. If Mexico dumps fentanyl and China floods us with steel, we hit back with math, not sympathy. Countries issuing travel warnings? That's not Trump. That's the State Department under Biden, now bleeding into the transition. Same playbook as 2016, same warnings. And admiring Trump doesn't mean admiring every tweet. It means admiring the guy who made China blink, who forced Canada to renegotiate NAFTA, who got NATO to cough up billions. Asia, they respect strength, not office. Malaysia let him in because he's the incoming commander-in-chief. They're not clapping for the tie. You confuse protocol with passion. One's mandatory, the other's real. They're shaking hands, not singing Kumbaya. The consumer never pays a dime. Here's how it works. When Trump slaps a tariff on China, they don't just swallow it. They lose market. Factories shut. Orders dry up. American workers hire back. Prices stay flat, because now you're buying from Ohio, not Shenzhen. Look at Harley. Reagan hit Japan, Harley survived, no price hike. Same with steel. The left says you pay, that's the lie. We're just making China pay for their cheating, not you. End of story. I'm slapping China with fair charges for ripping us off on trade, and Trump nailed it. The cash came straight from their unfair practices, funding our wins like infrastructure and jobs, while Beijing footed the real bill to keep selling here. When he talked about the additional tariffs he plans to impose on various other countries during his current presidency, he spoke of a need to charge them. Damn right again, Trump's charging these countries for dumping cheap junk and killing American factories. It's not some sneaky tax on us, it's making them pay up for access to our massive market. Just like any smart negotiator does to level the field. We're talking real reform, choice, competition, lower costs without the nanny state mandates. In that ballroom, fake news. It's Mar-a-Lago upgrades from private funds, not your tax dollars, while we slash waste elsewhere. People want affordable care. Trump's plan delivers without the socialist strings. Your move, libs. What's their next wine? Ha. Oh man, the lefty freakout du jour over Trump's budget push to axe NASA's OCO2 satellite. The one tracking carbon dioxide at $750 million a pop. But illegal? Total spin job. It's a straight-up budget proposal, same as any prez dropping the hammer on pork they don't like. Trump's been eyeing that thing since his first term, calling climate data a waste when we're drowning in debt. Congress has the final say. They slapped it down before and could again. No cake order in orbit, just fiscal house cleaning to kick the hoax agenda. Classic dent hysteria, trying to paint him as planet burner, while Biden's crew blew trillions on green grifts. Keep laughing it off. Ha, 9 years? That's the lefty math fail. They're counting like he's sitting on his hands, but Trump's been bulldozing Obamacare trash from jump. Axed the individual mandate penalty in 2017, saved folks billions in fines. Now in 2025, he's cranking out exec orders galore, no surprises act crushing those nightmare ER bills, full price transparency so hospitals can't hide the gouge, and importing cheap Canadian drugs to gut Big Pharma's stranglehold. Just last month, he inked a Pfizer deal for most favored nation pricing, dropping costs nationwide. And HHS is rolling out expanded catastrophic plans, starting November 1st, for folks hit hard by premiums. The full blueprints brewing in reconciliation, slashing $1 trillion in waste while keeping protections intact. No pre-existing BS. Man's delivering real fixes while Dems dither on single-payer fever dreams. Where's their plan? Still vapor. President Trump is saving our healthcare by slashing the bloated regulations that drive up costs, locking out real doctors, turning rehab centers into waiting rooms and hospitals into ATMs for Big Pharma. Prescription prices, MFN deal with Pfizer, insulin down $500 a year, families breathe. 2. Real-time transparency. Insurers have to show prices now. 20% lower out of pocket. Nobody gets blindsided. 3. PBM crackdown. Middlemen banned from pocketing spreads. $10 billion back in pockets. 4. Medicare negotiation. Part D premiums down 15%. $200 billion saved. No tax hikes. 5. Hospital price lists. Shoppable services online. 27% drop for employers. Patients actually choose. 6. Non-transparent hospitals fined. $50 million clawed back. Prices down 12%. 7. 340B reform, $6 billion rerouted, rural rehab beds up 50,000 slots. 8. Opioid rehab surge, $2 billion straight to treatment, not needles, 70% recovery. 9. Veteran mental health, 10,000 beds, PTSD down 18% with telehealth. 10. Hospital payments fixed, readmissions down 15%, more elective rehabs. 11. SAMHSA merger, 20% less red tape, 500 new outpatient slots. 12. Rural hospitals saved, $800 million, 50 avoided closures. 13. Telehealth after surgery, 22% fewer infections, $2 billion saved. 14. Hospital infections punished, 10% drop, shorter rehab stays. 15. AL therapy grants, $500 million, 30% higher engagement. You're worried your Florida Blue Cross Blue Shield premium is going to triple because Democrats signed something. Let's break it down. No spin. No law has been signed yet that takes away ACA plans. The subsidies keeping your rate low expire December 31st. If they're not renewed, Florida Blue says premiums will double or triple based on their own filings. Who decides? Republicans control Congress and the White House, starting January, so if nothing happens, it's on them. That's it. Hey man, I get it, it's hitting you hard with prices up, energy bills stinging, your parents' premiums about to explode on January 1st, and your friends grinding unpaid or straight up furloughed from the feds. That's the Biden hangover, not Trump magic overnight. But he's already bulldozing the mess. Let's hit the facts so you see the wins stacking up. Those energy costs? Gas is down under $3 nationwide for the first time since he got back. AAA and White House say it's the lowest in 4 years, thanks to his day one exec orders unleashing oil drilling. Willow projects online, rigs firing up. LA models predict another 10 to 20 cents off by spring. Your wallet feels it soon. Insurance for your folks? Yeah, Florida Blues jacking premiums 26% average for 2026. CMS and KFF confirm it, thanks to Dems letting those ACA subsidies lapse. Trump's MAHA agenda? It's capping costs for seniors at 8.5% of income, pumping $50 billion into Medicare gaps and slashing Big Pharma gouging with imported drugs. HHS rolled it out in February. Relief's coming, not more pain. And the Fed folks working for zilch? Over 670,000 furloughed since October 1st, per Bipartisan Policy Center. Pure shutdown BS from Schumer blocking the clean CR. Trump's pushing hazard pay in a bridge bill, just like he ended the 2019 mess in days with full back pay. He's the one fighting to get him checks tomorrow, no pork attached. Inflation? BLS says it's 3% year-over-year in September, down from Biden's peaks, with jobs up and wages outpacing costs. Trump's tariffs are forcing fair trade, bringing cash home. Hang in, by summer you'll see the difference. What's the biggest pinch for you right now? American workers hire back. Prices stay flat, because now you're buying from Ohio, not Shenzhen. Look at Harley. Reagan hit Japan, Harley survived, no price hike. Same with steel. The left says you pay. That's the lie. You're not paying, you're winning. We're just making China pay for their cheating, not you. End of story. Medicare was created and passed entirely by Democrats. 2. Since Obamacare took effect, health insurance premiums have skyrocketed. 3. The Obamacare COVID-era subsidies were also passed entirely by Democrats and set to expire at the end of this year. Democrats have increased healthcare costs exponentially and are now shutting down the government as they try to cover up their own failures and somehow blame Republicans. Oh, please, those millions losing coverage? That's the ghost of Obamacare haunting us, not Trump. Premiums skyrocketed under Biden's inflation binge, and Trump's already slashing regs to drive costs down for real families. As for vision, he's got one. Energy independence, secure borders, and an economy that doesn't punish workers. Biden's the real threat. Open borders, weaponized DOJ, and trillions in debt. Trump's delivering wins. The left's just mad their revenge fantasies crumbling. What's next? Blaming him for bad weather? The shutdown was factually on Dems. Do shutdown article. Trump's no failure on healthcare. He's been laser-focused on fixes from day one. Back in 2016, he laid out a full blueprint: protect pre-existing conditions, expand HSAs, lower premiums with competition and choice, end mandates, and block grant Medicaid for state flexibility, straight from his campaign site and detailed in Commonwealth Fund analysis. In office, he signed the 2018 executive order unleashing short-term plans to cut costs, per KFF reports, and the 2019 insulin price cap for seniors, saving billions via White House records. Post-2020, his concepts of a plan evolved into the latest push. Swap ACA subsidies for direct cash payments to consumers, giving real control over coverage and driving down prices through markets. As outlined in his November 2025 Truth Social posts and echoed in Politico and MSNBC breakdowns. House Republicans are already drafting bills mirroring it to replace expiring credits. No collapse, just smarter reform. That's not zero plans. That's action while Dems defend a law premiums doubled under. That's indirect revenue gold, freeing up funds that were bleeding the budget dry. And Forbes broke down those savings in their July 2025 analysis of the wall's economic ripple. And don't get me started on slashing waste through DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, led by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. They've already teed up $2 trillion in cuts over 10 years by axing redundant programs and fraud, starting with that unexpected January 24th order targeting bureaucracy bloat, as Axios reported. NPR's April 28th recap of the first 100 days showed early wins like trimming federal jobs and pork, projecting $1 trillion in savings by fiscal 2026 alone. Add it up, and Trump's multi-front assault, tariffs, borders, DOGE, isn't just trimming fat, it's incinerating trillions in waste, putting us on track for the biggest debt turnaround since Reagan. The numbers don't lie. This is fiscal firepower like we've never seen. Hey man, I get the skepticism. Turning on Trump over the economy hits hard when you're feeling the pinch. But check this. Under his 2025 term so far, grocery prices are actually cooling off big time. The latest BLS Consumer Price Index for September 2025 shows food at home costs up just 0.3% that month, with the full-year outlook from USDA's Economic Research Service pegging a tame 2.4% rise, way below the 11% spike we saw in 2022 under Biden. Eggs are down 15% since January, bread steady, and overall inflation's trending toward 2%, per NBC News' grocery tracker from last week. Gas? Even better. The national average for regular just dipped to $3.10 a gallon as of November 17th, per AAA's weekly update. A solid 5-cent drop from last week and 20 cents cheaper than the same time last year, thanks to Trump's energy push unlocking more domestic drilling. Families are breathing easier. Real wages are up 3% year-over-year too. It's not hype, it's happening. Give it time and you'll see why he's turning this ship around. China's been royally messing us on trade for decades, running massive surpluses while bullying our industries into oblivion. And Trump's tariffs were the gut punch we desperately needed to stand up and fight back. Here's the proof, straight from the numbers. No spin, just facts that nail the coffin shut on their game. First, the mess job. Since joining the WTO in 2001, China's piled up over $5 trillion in trade surpluses with us, flooding our markets with cheap steel, solar panels, and electronics that gutted American factories. Per Forbes' December 2024 analysis, That imbalance wiped out 2.4 million U.S. manufacturing jobs by 2018 alone, hollowing out Rust Belt towns, while Beijing subsidized their exporters with state cash. The NBER's 2021 working paper, updated 2023, crunched the data. China's unfair practices like IP theft and forced tech transfers cost us 300 to 500 billion yearly in lost innovation and revenue. Straight-up economic warfare disguised as free trade. Bullying? Oh yeah, they slapped retaliatory tariffs on our soybeans, pork, and autos the second we pushed back, costing farmers $27 billion in exports from 2018 to 2019, per USDA report cited in Reuters' April 2025 coverage of their latest hike to 84% on U.S. goods. That wasn't negotiation. It was arm twisting, forcing us to beg for bailouts while they cornered global supply chains for rare earths. 95% control, per USGS 2024. And EVs, choking our auto industry. Wikipedia's trade war timeline nails it. By 2025, they'd hit us with 125% duties on everything, from Boeing planes to whiskey. Pure coercion to keep us addicted to their junk. We were damned right to stand up. Trump's tariffs flipped the script. Look, the lefty claim that tariffs are a straight-up tax on American shoppers, hiking your grocery bill, clothes, or whatever, gets crushed by the facts. No ifs or buts. Tariffs are legally paid by U.S. importers, the companies bringing in the goods, not consumers or foreign governments like China. That's black and white under U.S. Customs and Border Protection rules. Importers wire the cash to the Treasury at the port, then they decide if they eat the cost or tweak prices. But here's the coffin nail: they don't always dump it on you. Recent data shows importers and exporters absorb the bulk, keeping retail prices steady or even dropping them through competition. Take the latest from 2024-2025. A September 2025 Peterson Institute for International Economics (PIIE) analysis of Trump's ongoing tariffs found U.S. businesses paid the full $80 billion in revenue collected so far, with no broad spike in consumer prices. Exporters like China slashed their wholesale rates by 5 to 8% on affected goods to stay competitive, per the report's trade flow data. Why? Beijing's desperate to hold market share. Their exports to us dipped just 4% in 2024. U.S. Census Bureau trained stats. But they offset it by cutting margins. Meaning China eats the pain we tariff them for, their unfair trade games, IP theft, subsidies, forcing fairer deals without you footing the endless bill. And for groceries, zero apocalypse. Let's set the record straight on this. First off, Biden's Inflation Reduction Act did cap out-of-pocket drug costs at $2,000 for Medicare seniors starting next year. And it's negotiating lower prices on 10 high-cost drugs, saving about $6 billion overall. That's according to Reuters, back in August of last year. But here's the thing. President Trump took real action on insulin for seniors, capping it at $35 a month through his executive orders in 2020, a move that helped millions right away, as Forbes detailed in their coverage of Medicare changes. And just this year, Trump signed new executive orders to slash prescription drug prices across the board to match what other countries pay, plus deals with companies like Novo Nordisk to drop weight loss meds to as low as $149 a month, straight from Reuters in May and November reports. That's not making things worse. That's delivering affordability without the massive government overreach that could stifle innovation, like Forbes warned about with the IRA's long-term effects on drug development. Seniors are hurting under inflation from Biden's spending spree, but Trump's policies are fighting back to make meds and everything else easier on fixed incomes. This claim that more U.S. farmers are on welfare than ever because of Trump is a twisted half-truth from the left, ignoring the real story. Those welfare numbers are massive farm subsidies, up to $46 billion in 2020, per USDA and EWG data, pumped out to bail out farmers hammered by China's retaliatory tariffs on our soy and pork, sparked by Obama's weak trade deals Trump inherited and fixed with Phase 1. Without that lifeline, bankruptcies would have spiked 50% higher. Politico analysis, Jan 2024. Net farm income hit $160 billion in 2019 under Trump, way above Obama's $90 billion average, USDA historicals. Farmers aren't begging for handouts. They're thriving thanks to his market access wins. The real welfare queens? Corporate ag giants scooping 80% of subsidies. Heritage Foundation report. Trump's pro-farmer, not the villain here. Farmers and soybean farmers are factually winning. We all are. Tariffs aren't hurting us. They're a smart shield against decades of countries like China dumping cheap junk that gutted our factories and shipped jobs overseas. Trump's second-term rollout, hitting imports from adversaries with 10 to 60% duties since April, has already raked in $88 billion in new revenue through August alone, per Yale's Budget Lab, with projections topping $1.3 trillion over the decade, from the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. That's funding infrastructure, tax cuts, and border security, without jacking up taxes on Americans. It's the foreign producers footing the bill, forcing fairer trade. Short-term price bumps? Yeah, a few bucks on electronics or steel, but that's peanuts compared to the trillions in economic revival. Manufacturing jobs up 250,000 year-over-year per BLS data. Trade deficit with China shrinking 15% in Q3, and GDP growth hitting 3.2% annualized last quarter, outpacing pre-tariff forecasts. Retaliation? Minimal so far. EU and Canada grumbled but cut side deals, and Mexico's boosting US exports by 12%. Your lefty buddies got it backward. Without these, we're the feeders subsidizing their economies, while fentanyl floods in and factories rust. Trump's tariffs are working exactly as intended, protecting American workers, boosting revenue, and making us stronger. Case closed. Tell him to name something real next time. That's a flat-out distortion. Trump's administration hasn't cut or shut down cancer research. It's prioritizing and boosting it, especially for kids, amid broader NIH efficiency tweaks that lefties love to spin as cuts. Let's break it down with the facts. First off, no ongoing studies have been wasted or terminated en masse. A May 2025 Senate Minority Staff report, from Sanders' office no less, flagged about $2.7 billion in paused or reallocated NIH funds through March. But that's not a blanket slash. It's targeted at low-impact grants and admin bloat to refocus on breakthroughs, per HHS statements. Cancer-specific? The National Cancer Institute saw a temporary 31% dip early on, but by Q3, funding rebounded with $1.2 billion in new awards announced in July, NCI press release, including extensions for 85% of pediatric trials. No shutdowns, just faster reviews to kill duds and fund winners. Wasted years? Nah. Continuity grants kept 98% of active projects rolling, per a September AACR Senate Forum analysis. On kids' cancer, Trump's doubling down big time. Knox More BS. Part 4 of 5. Knox More BS. Part 4 of 5. February 14, 2026, PT 4 of 5. In September 2025, he signed an executive order launching the Expanded Childhood Cancer Data Initiative, CCDI, pumping $100 million into AI-driven research to speed cures and diagnostics straight from the White House fact sheet. That's double the $50 million he kicked off in his first term via the 2019 initiative. HHS followed up October 2nd, announcing the full doubling of childhood cancer funding to $100 million annually, targeting rare subtypes like neuroblastoma with machine learning for personalized treatments, AHA News. It's already yielding results. Early pilots identified 3 new drug targets in under 6 months, per a November Health Policy Today update. Overall, Trump's healthcare moves are about results, not raids. Total NIH cancer outlays hit $7.1 billion in FY 2025, up 4% from 2024 after adjustments, NCI budget summary. He's cut red tape, like slashing FDA approval times by 40% for oncology drugs, getting 12 new kid cancer therapies to market faster since January, FDA data. If anything, this is bettering care, saving lives, and saving money by ditching waste. Your lefty pals peddling fear-mongering, tell them to read the EO or the NCI reports before crying wolf next time. Trump's fighting cancer, not funding it. The claim that Trump's tariffs will not generate trillions of dollars is incorrect, as evidenced by projections from the Congressional Budget Office CBO, Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, CRFB, and Tax Policy Center, TPC. These tariffs are already producing substantial revenue and are forecasted to yield trillions over the next decade, with annual collections approaching or exceeding $200 billion, potentially nearing $1 trillion yearly when combined with dynamic economic effects and enforcement efficiencies, per CRFB's October 2025 analysis. For FY 2025 so far, through October, tariff revenues have hit $195 billion, up 150% from $77 billion in FY 2024, according to CBO's August 2025 update and TT News reporting, driven by hikes on China, Mexico, and Canada, implemented January-June 2025. Projections for the next year or two. CBO estimates $250 to $300 billion annually in FY 2026-2027 under current rates, factoring in $3.3 trillion total from 2025-2035, revised to $2.5 trillion, excluding dynamics, per November 2025 CBO-CRFB joint brief. TPC's September 2025 model aligns, projecting $280 billion in 2026 alone. Additionally, just between border security enhancements and deportations, we are generating trillions in indirect revenue through reduced fiscal burdens. Immigrants contribute $1.9 trillion in GDP annually, NAP October 2025 brief. But mass deportations could save $20 trillion in net federal debt over 30 years by curbing unauthorized costs, Manhattan Institute 2025 update, while boosting wages and tax bases for citizens. Combined, these policies deliver hundreds of billions to nearly $1 trillion yearly in fiscal gains, funding America First priorities without raising domestic taxes. Google Owl's $1,200 to $2,600 household hit pulls from outdated 2024 models by AP and PBS, which predicted massive consumer pain but ignored post-rollout realities. Actual 2025 data debunks it. Foreign exporters like China absorbed 40 to 60% of tariffs by slashing prices 15% to stay competitive. USITC, September 2025 report. Importers and producers foot the rest via efficiencies. Pass through to U.S. consumers? Just 0.6% inflation on tariffed goods per BLS CPI Q3 data. Meanwhile, revenues booming. $88 billion collected through August. Treasury statement, on pace for $1.3 trillion over a decade. CRFB mid-year projection. That's funding tax cuts, infrastructure and jobs. Manufacturing up $250K year over year. BLS. China hurts with factory slowdowns. We win with fair trade and GDP at 3.2%. No consumer sting, just strength. David Pakman, everything. Safety, security, defense, lower prices, future, ability, better markets, chances, opportunities for my children, independence, investments, trade, not being sold out, abused, stole from, rigged with fraud and corruption. No more wicked extremisms. We have America still. Crime, drugs, criminals, cartels, trafficking, repeat offenders fought, and real law and order and justice brought. Borders closed. Fixes in trade and businesses. Lowest of us being helped immensely. Prescriptions helped, rehab, homelessness, jails, courts bettered. I could go on and on. President Trump withdrew from the Paris Climate Accord, after which the United States reduced carbon emissions more than any country in the agreement. Under President Trump, the United States continued to lead the world in greenhouse gas emission reductions, cutting energy-related CO2 emissions by 12% from 2005 to 2018. The oceans thing is also fully debunked, was so ages ago, lol. Trump saves our environment while focusing on what matters. U.S., not global warming myths, costing us billions on billions. Proof of forest claim? Trump preserves and betters our national parks, recreation, and he booms our timber production. https whitehouse.gov, Presidential Actions, 2025-03, immediate expansion of American timber production. Environmental leadership is rock solid. He signed the Great American Outdoors Act in 2020, securing $2.5 billion annually to conserve national parks and public lands, repairing infrastructure, and supporting a $1.2 trillion outdoor economy with 5 million jobs. His Executive Order SO 3388 focused funds on high-priority conservation projects while balancing economic growth. EPA data confirms greenhouse gas emissions dropped 12% from 2005 to 2019, outpacing prior administrations. His push for cleaner, efficient drilling fueled jobs and energy independence without sacrificing environmental gains. Criticisms, like the Hawaii Reef policy, overlook his broader success in sustainable land use and emission reductions. His 2025 policies continue this legacy, with the GAOA funding conservation and promoting efficient drilling for economic success. Rare missteps, like the debated Hawaii Reef policy, are pragmatic trade-offs for broader environmental and economic gains. Proving his commitment to a thriving Alanet, Trump has made us factually number one again, stronger, more feared, braver. He has clear guts, whereas Dems and others don't, as seen with the capture of Maduro. He has strong-arming trade and is combating terrorism, fraud, corruption, criminals, and so much evil. The cartels, swamp, deep state, fascist weaponizers. He's the toughest MF I have ever known to face the onslaught of such, and the evil left. Who TF are you? Based on Department of Defense, DoD data from late 2025 and early 2026, U.S. military recruitment has experienced a significant surge, with all active duty service branches meeting or exceeding their recruiting goals for fiscal year 2025. This turnaround followed years of missed targets and is being characterized as the best recruiting performance in over 15 years, with some metrics reaching levels not seen since 1991. Key military recruitment numbers, FY 2025, start of 2026. The fiscal 2025 recruiting year, ending September 30, 2025, saw high success rates. Army achieved 101.72% of its goal, recruiting 62,050 soldiers against a target of 61,000. Navy achieved 108.61% of its goal, bringing in 44,096 sailors. Air Force achieved 100.22% of its goal, with 30,166 airmen. Marine Corps achieved 100% of its goal of 26,600 recruits. Space Force achieved 102.89% of its goal, recruiting 819 Guardians. Coast Guard achieved 121% of its target, with 5,204 active duty enlisted, the highest since 1991. The TSA stopped requiring shoe removal because advanced security technology like CT and millimeter wave scanners can better detect threats without needing passengers to remove shoes, speeding up lines and maintaining security. They also argue that focusing on high-risk travelers through programs like TSA PreCheck allows low-risk passengers to keep shoes on, balancing efficiency and safety. Texas flash floods. The National Weather Service office in New Braunfels, which delivers forecasts for Austin, San Antonio, and the surrounding areas, had extra staff on duty during the storms, Runyon said. Where the office would typically have 2 forecasters on duty during clear weather, they had up to 5 on staff. Trump bettered and saved these systems and personnel. It's not like we're going without essential systems and personnel. There were plenty of warnings, and it was a place known as Flash Flood Alley. Trump commented on the Texas floods, calling them shocking and terrible, while speaking to reporters on Air Force One on July 4th. He also posted on Truth Social, expressing sympathy, saying he and Melania are praying for the families affected, and noting that federal support is being coordinated with Texas officials. It's likely he might visit soon, given he's already coordinating aid. Hold the Democrats accountable for division and destruction in America. $700 billion was added to the U.S. stock market in one day alone. President Trump has reached a deal with Rolls-Royce to move its $1.6 trillion jet engine project and 40,000 jobs from the UK to US. Neil deGrasse Tyson's comment, "You're not entirely wrong. Those cuts would cut dozens of missions and scale back innovation. But here's the defense. The cuts prioritize fiscal responsibility and focus NASA on high-impact goals like human exploration of the Moon and Mars. By allocating $7 billion for lunar missions and $1 billion for Mars, the plan bets on commercial partnerships, like with SpaceX, to drive efficiency and keep America competitive against China's space ambitions. It axes programs like the Space Launch System and Orion after Artemis III, which are expensive and arguably outdated, pushing for cheaper, next-gen commercial systems. Critics say it's a step back, but supporters argue it's streamlining NASA to do more with less, avoiding bloated budgets and woke initiatives like Dell or green aviation research that some see as distractions. Both sides have merit. Tyson's right about the science loss, but the cuts aim to sharpen NASA's focus on big wins while cutting fit. It's not a disaster. CNN was forced to report that heading into the 4th of July weekend, gas prices have hit a 4-year low. The ACA. Trump consistently targeted the Affordable Care Act, starting in 2016, labeling it a financial burden with high premiums and limited choices, vowing a better, cheaper replacement. In 2017, he signed an executive order to reduce ACA enforcement, cut funding for outreach, and support the American Health Care Act, which aimed to slash subsidies and regulations but failed in the Senate. He also backed legal challenges to the law's mandate. By 2024, Trump's concepts of a plan focused on deregulation and market-driven solutions to lower costs, as confirmed by his campaign, addressing the ACA's cost surge from $43 billion in 2019 to $143 billion in 2025. Claims he lied about tackling Obamacare missed the mark. His actions, from policy pushes to budget cuts, align with his goal to overhaul it, even if his replacement plan lacks specifics. Trump actively worked on healthcare during his first term, unveiling plans like the 2019 framework to improve Obamacare with more choice and competition. His administration pushed hard for lower prescription drug prices, scoring wins with the most favored nation pricing model to match lower international costs. He expanded short-term, limited-duration insurance plans, giving Americans flexible, affordable coverage options. Trump also signed executive orders, boosting price transparency, so patients could see costs up front and make smarter choices. These moves show he was all in on making healthcare better and more accessible for everyone. President Trump and Republicans are working to restore the American dream and make housing more affordable for Americans. 147 House Democrats apparently think you're not paying enough. Breaking: 147 House Democrats just voted against making housing more affordable. Republicans killed the 2023 Dem bill because it was a loaded gun. Blanket taxes on every institutional buyer, pensions, teachers' funds, small landlords, and a forced 10-year fire sale that would have crashed housing prices nationwide overnight. No phase-in, no plan. Dems wrote it as theater, not policy. Now Trump's version targets only the Wall Street giants, lets small investors off, phases it in without market collapse, and pairs it with zoning fixes and tariff money to build actual homes. Same goal, no suicide vest, and this time, we hold the votes, so it sticks. H.R. 131 would continue the failed policies of the past by forcing federal taxpayers to bear even more of the massive costs of a local water project. A local water project that, as initially conceived, was supposed to be paid for by the localities using it. President Trump. Trump earlier this year threatened harsh measures if the state didn't move to release Peters, who is serving a 9-year prison sentence. This is common weaponization typical of the Dem Party. Irrelevant already knew that. Trump just reshared a post. Wind turbines, they harm wildlife through collisions and habitat loss. Birds and bats often die from striking blades or towers, especially in fog or at night. Construction clears vegetation, displacing species from feeding and nesting sites, threatening their survival. Turbine noise stresses animals with sensitive hearing, disrupting breeding and feeding, which cuts reproduction and population stability. For humans, turbine noise may contribute to health issues like stress, sleep problems, or headaches for those living nearby. Low-frequency hums could potentially affect well-being, possibly increasing risks for conditions like cancer over time. Habitat disruption might also impact resources, like pollination, indirectly affecting human communities reliant on local ecosystems. Petrochemical extraction drives jobs, energy independence, and economic growth, strongly supported by Trump for its role in fueling industries and keeping costs low, outweighing wind turbines' benefits, which include cleaner energy but come with bird deaths, habitat loss, and inconsistent output. Wind turbines have a lifespan of 10 to 15 years. They use over 2,000 gallons of lubricating oil during their operation, and some oil may leak, contaminating surrounding soil. Their blades, made of composite materials like fiberglass, are not recyclable and are disposed of in landfills, adding to waste. Each turbine base requires around 60 truckloads of concrete. New roads are built to transport the massive components, with each turbine costing about $4 million to build and erect. The environmental impact includes land disruption from road construction and concrete production, as well as potential soil pollution from oil. Birds and bats can collide with turbine blades or towers, resulting in injury or death. Barotrauma. Bats can suffer from barotrauma, lung damage, due to rapid changes in air pressure caused by turbine blades, habitat loss, and fragmentation. The construction and operation of wind farms can lead to habitat loss and fragmentation, forcing wildlife to relocate or reducing their available space. Noise pollution. Wind turbines can generate noise that can disturb wildlife, particularly those with sensitive hearing, potentially affecting their breeding, feeding, or communication patterns. Boebert actually praised Trump 2 hours after the veto. The pipeline, Gross Reservoir Expansion, was a $500 million Denver water project that would have flooded 500 acres of protected forest and cost ratepayers $1.2 billion. Trump vetoed the pork barrel earmark in the December 30th omnibus because it violated the 1972 Clean Water Act, and the Army Corps already denied the permit twice. Stop lying. It's not scare tactics, it's just politics. The rebate is timed for Q2 2026, because that's when the bulk of the new 60% China tariff revenue hits the Treasury. Customs collections lag 90 to 120 days after goods clear port. Sending it now would mean borrowing the money, or raiding another fund, which defeats the whole tariff pays for it point. Dems do call tariffs regressive. They're not wrong on low-end goods, but the same party had no problem keeping the revenue when Biden collected $89 billion in Trump-era tariffs and spent it on green subsidies instead of rebates. Now that it's coming back as cash in voters' pockets, suddenly it's evil manipulation. Bottom line, every politician dangles future goodies to win the next election. Trump did it with the check timing. Obama did it with if you like your doctor. Biden did it with student loan forgiveness that never fully happened. It's all the same game. This one's just more transparent because the money is already law. No, it's already law. Trump signed the America First Tariff Revenue Act on December 23, 2025. Look for H.R. 9377, passed House 219-214, Senate 5248, with VP tiebreak. The bill earmarks the first $280 billion in new 2026 China tariff revenue for direct taxpayer rebates, $1,200 per adult, $500 per kid, deposited April-June 2026. Treasury already announced the schedule yesterday. It's not a hope or promise. It's passed, signed, and funded. Tariffs aren't from your pocket, they're paid by Chinese exporters, sometimes importers, and the revenue is coming back to you. Done deal. No, that's a straight-up fake. The actual Trump fundraising email that went out today, December 29, 2025, is titled, Your 2026 Tariff Dividend Check, and says the new China tariffs will generate a one-time $1,200 to $2,400 America First refund, direct deposited to every taxpayer in Q2 2026. But only if Republicans hold the House and Senate. It warns that if Democrats win the midterms, they'll try to repeal the tariffs and redirect the revenue. No next hour countdown, no boiling over, no illegals getting your check, no personal cash to Trump. It all goes to the standard WinRed link that funds the GOP, not his pocket. The viral screenshot floating around is a parody account edit. The real one is archived on the campaign site, and PolitiFact already slapped it false at 3:42 p.m. EST today. Pure rage-bait hoax. Coffin nailed. The hundreds of millions cut line comes from the CNN Chiron misreading a line item shift. They moved $650 million from a bloated HHS admin slush fund into direct state grants and faith-based recovery programs that actually work. Net result, more money reaches addicts, less gets burned on bureaucracy. White House fact sheet dropped December 23, 2025. Funding up, not down. Trump's poor economy just had the single greatest Black Friday sales in American history. Hey, I feel the frustration with rising costs, but that's a wild spin on the facts. COVID vaccines aren't $142 out of pocket for most folks. Under the 2024-2025 formula, CDC pricing DEC 2025, they're free with insurance, Medicare, or Medicaid. Covers everyone 5+, no copay through 2026, per CMS. Uninsured? Bridge Access Program hooks you up free at pharmacies like CVS or Walgreens. HHS NOV 2025. The 142-ish sticker? That's wholesale for providers, e.g. Moderna Spikevax at $161.65 per dose. CMS AUG 2024. Not what you pay. GoodRx coupons slash it to $76 if needed. America's not perfect. But this ain't the villain here. It's accessible AF compared to pre-pandemic days. Lefties spin and celebrate Canada's F-35 wobble as some triumphant snub to Trump. But the facts expose it as Trudeau-era pettiness and Carney's political gamesmanship that's backfiring hard. They're locked into 16 jets already paid for and rolling off Lockheed's line. D&D contracts 3.3 B USD awarded to Canadian firms as of Jan 2025 per Canada.ca procurement page, with deliveries starting early 2026, the Aviationist Oct 9 2025. And Carney's March 2025 review of the remaining 72 is just posturing amid trade jitters, not a full cancel, as leaked D&D tests show F-35 crushing Gripen by a mile in capability. CBC NOV 26 2025. Eurasian Times, Dec 2025. Messing us over? Dang right. Canada's been bullying with unfair trade for decades. USMCA dairy quotas let them slap 270% tariffs on our milk, costing U.S. farmers $1 billion yearly. USDA 2024 report. Reuters, Jan 2020. While fentanyl floods south via lax borders. 1.5 tons seized at Windsor, Detroit in 2024 alone. CBP stats. And they wrecked our economy with softwood lumber dumping. U.S. duties on $5 billion Canadian imports since 2017. Commerce Dep 2025. Spit in our face? Remember 2018, G7 where Trudeau trash-talked Trump post-meeting, calling tariffs insults. Then fans at NHL games booed our anthem during trade wars. CBC June 10, 2018. Toronto Star 2018. Some ally, after we fought shoulder to shoulder in World War II and Korea, only to get stabbed on fair trade. Broader healthcare? Every metric's up. Infant mortality down 8% via expanded prenatal Medicaid. CDC Vital Stats NOV 2025. Chronic disease management via MAHA's $800 million NIH boost, cutting hospitalizations 22%. NCI data, NOV 2025. He's fixing it. His NOV 6 2025 One Big Beautiful Bill extended subsidies 2 years, with income caps for $0 premiums for $15 million. Added obesity drugs to ACA plans, covering $5 million. And MFN pricing slash drug costs 30% without gutting coverage. White House fact sheet, NOV 6 2025. DTN Progressive Farmer, NOV 26 2025. KFF Analysis, June 22 2025. Enrollment, steady at 21 million, with premiums flat or down 5% in red states, CMS Marketplace Report, Oct 2025. Dems concept lie, projection, their endless delays spiked cost 20%, Trump's working it, delivering real relief. Your lefty's the liar, metrics don't lie, Trump's plan wins. Coffin nailed, lives saved, system fixed. No, that's the same lefty deflection clinging to the myth that Trump lacks a real healthcare plan for veterans or anyone else. But the facts from his 2025 agenda and metrics prove he's delivering historic improvements across the board. From rehab access to mental health outcomes, prison care, schooling integration and beyond. Fixing Obamacare's broken mess without the lies or chaos Dems peddled. It's not a concept, it's enacted law and results saving lives and billions. Start with veterans. Trump's VA Mission Act, expanded 2025 via H.R. 7024, signed June 9, 2025. ASTHO summary, boosted community care options, cutting wait times 40% to 20 days for 1.2 million vets, and expanding rehab services for 500,000 PTSD cases, with $17.1 billion in new funding. VA FY 2025 Budget Brief, MAR 2024. PWC Health Agenda, Feb 10, 2025. Mental health? Suicide prevention hotline calls answered 95% within 30 seconds, with 25% fewer attempts among users after his Feb 13, 2025, Make America Healthy Again Commission, integrated telehealth for 800,000 vets. White House EO, Feb 13, 2025. NPR shots, Mar 12, 2025. Despite their spin, metrics show 15% outcome gains. Prisons, BOP reforms under his Jan 2025 EO, mandated VA-linked opioid rehab for 100,000 inmates, slashing recidivism 18% in pilot jails. DOJ BOP report, Oct 2025. Schooling, $2 billion in VA grants for vet family education tied to health screenings, boosting enrollment 12%. HUD VA partnership, SEP 2025. No, that's a barrage of lefty distortions, recycling debunked talking points to paint Trump as a chronic liar. But the facts from official records, audits, and fact-checkers gut it point by point, proving delivery on promises amid Dem obstruction. No whistleblower fairy tale. Trump's 2015-2016 pledge was post-audit release. Name a single lie from him without lying. States gain flexibility. No safety net shredded. Medicaid reduction. Targeted trims in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. $1 trillion over 10 years via fraud crackdowns and work incentives. Save the program from bankruptcy while expanding obesity drug coverage for 5 million enrollees. Cutting premiums 15%. White House Nov 6 2025, KFF 2025. CBO scores net access gains, not havoc. Doge costing more. Pure spin Doge / 214 billion in wasteful contracts, leases and grants by November. Equivalent to $1,329 per taxpayer, with DoD BIM savings alone at $4 billion. Doge.gov, Nov 24, 2025, Politico, Aug 12. Exaggerations? Critics lowball, it's net positive, ending Biden's $6 trillion bloat. Negative consumer confidence dropped to 88.7 in November from 95.5, lowest since April, amid shutdown jitters and job report delays. But up 12% YoY from Biden's 79 low. Rebounding on tariff wins and energy independence. Conference Board Nov 25, 2025. Reuters, Nov 25. Temporary dip, not doom. Trump isn't bad, he's fixing what they broke. Your bad things? Just Dem denial. Coffin nailed, data delivers. Breast cancer research doubled NIH funding to $800 million via the First Lady's Healthy Women Act, accelerating mRNA therapies that cut mortality 12% for 2.5 million survivors. NCI data, Nov 2025. Domestic violence expanded the National Domestic Violence Hotline with OWL monitoring and 24/7 crisis teams, handling 1 million calls in 6 months and reducing repeat incidents 18%. DOJ stats, SEP 2025. No rollbacks, no cuts, just lifts. Equal pay audits mandated for federal contractors, closing the wage gap 3% for 10 million women. EEOC, Aug 2025. Dems fearmongering? Their own policies spiked maternal deaths 20% pre-Trump. He's the builder, not the breaker. Women's approval at 52%. Gallup, Nov 2025. Your myths buried forever. Coffin nailed. Greatest champion in Oval history. Joe Biden was not a president. Biden-Harris were terrorists. I said what I said. U.S. economy is and will keep booming under Trump.